details that are coming out. I mean, he has got no fixed address, so of course that's always a problem. The police say no, if he gets bail, he'll leave the country. At one point, to transport himself from Rustenburg to Kempton Park, he was going to buy a car. He gave the person who was doing that $30,000. It's not that far from Rustenburg to Kempton Park, is it? That's 500,000 rand. R500,000. Drop everything and take me to Kempton Park. Okay, that's fine. I'll see you on Monday. Happily to do that. It's a huge amount of money, but he also spent a lot of the money on cars. Quite interesting. But $30,000. Will you take me to Kempton Park? Sure. I mean, very interesting to sort of see how that sort of manages. The post office, big stories there. The business rescue plan. 6,000 people will be retrenched. Now we've been told that these retrenchments will happen for a long time. 420 branches would be closed. A very high number of branches of the post office. The Chief Justice Raymond Zondo talking yesterday, saying the judiciary is still not fully independent because the magistracy, so the magistrates, come under the Justice Department. I know people have raised this before and hasn't actually been sorted out. And he also says that they can't keep having to go back to government for more money. And he makes the point, we need more judges and we need more courts. You know what I don't understand about this is that if you look at the number of judges and courts we had, say, 15, 20 years ago, it's roughly the same as the number we have now. There are a few more, but not many. And yet the population has grown so dramatically, so it would stand to reason you would need more courts and more courtrooms. And our population is going to grow for a long time. So I don't know why we don't actually sort that out. It seems to me to be quite strange. Anyway, lots to talk about this morning. We'll look at what's happening on the beaches and the sort of holiday towns around the country. We'll talk to Open Secrets. We'll talk about Mavuso Mzamang, a little bit more about that. We'll talk about intelligence bills and things like that coming through as well. The number this Friday morning, 086 000 2032, SMS 41391. You tweet us FM Radio and at Stephen Grootes, and you send your WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. Good morning. It's Friday morning, the last working Friday of the year. It's 6:15.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Normalizo Mandela, good morning. How are you doing? Oh dear. Normalizo, are you with us? Right, we'll sort of come back to that in a moment, shall we? And see if we are able to actually see where she is and just see if we're able to talk to Normalizo Mandela. It's 6:15.
The award-winning SAFM playwriting competition is back.
Piece of good news for writers out there.
SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound.
Dr. Jerry Mufokeng Wamaketa is head judge of the competition.
And you ask the question, who? And I want to say everybody, young, old, black, white.
For a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Normalizo, there you are. Good morning. Oh dear. All right. We were told that we were ready to go. Just battling to get through to that studio. Very strange thing to happen. I don't think some of this has ever actually happened to us before. Just clearly a sort of technical issue or something. Anyway, 16 minutes after 6 the time. Let's have a quick look at the weather for you around the country this morning. Tshwane is partly cloudy, 17 and 31. Johannesburg's partly cloudy, 15 and 28. Vereeniging partly cloudy, 15 and 28. Bombela morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy. Isolated showers, thunder showers, 17 and 31. Polokwane partly cloudy, isolated showers, thunder showers, 16 and 30. Mahakeng fine, 16 and 35. Vryburg fine, 14 and 37. Mangung fine, 12 and 34. Kimberley fine, 15 and 36. Uppington fine, 16 and 34. Cape Town cloudy today, a chance of light rain from the afternoon, a light southwesterly wind becoming fresh southeasterly from the afternoon, 18 and 22. George cloudy, a chance of rain from the evening, a light and variable wind in the morning, 16 and 24. Gqeberha partly cloudy, becoming cloudy, light evening rain, a moderate to fresh southwesterly, 17 and 24. East London partly cloudy, becoming cloudy in the evening, a moderate to fresh southwesterly, 18 and 25. eThekwini partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers, a moderate to fresh northeasterly wind, 19 and 28. Richards Bay partly cloudy, isolated showers, thunder showers, a moderate to fresh northerly wind, 22 and 32. And Pietermaritzburg partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers, 15 and 29.
Make every weekend a fragrance weekend with Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Get an incredible 20% off your favorite fragrance like Aramis, Bulgari, Calvin Klein, Guess, Givenchy, Versace, Yves Saint Laurent, and Zadig and Voltaire. This weekend only, 9 and 10 December. Shop online or in store for the best prices on our wide range of luxurious fragrances. Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Better health starts here.
Mamelodi Sundowns and Egyptian outfit Pyramids FC have collected maximum points in their Group A opening matches. They now tackle each other in search of victory. Masandawana want to ensure their visitors walk away without any joy, but Pyramids FC are confident they will upset the 2016 champs. This is the CAF Champions League. Grootgop battles it out with East Cairo. Experience the African flavor of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Pyramids FC on Sunday 10 December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on their SABC bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide its governance, to amend the ICASA Act of 2000 and the Electronic Communications Act of 2005. For more information, contact the Portfolio Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies by emailing sabcbill@parliament.gov.za, directed to Hanjiera Sali. Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
In Gaza, images have now emerged of dozens of Palestinian men being tied up and stripped to their underwear and then blindfolded and being held by members of the Israeli Defense Force. In some cases, they're just being held outside. In others, there are images of them being placed in military trucks. Meanwhile, there's still no end to the violence that's been sparked by the Hamas attacks on Israel, in which 1,200 people were killed. At least 15,000 Palestinians have been killed. I think that number may in fact be higher. It's now exactly 2 months since this round of this long-running conflict or dispute started. Professor John Stremlau is an honorary professor of international relations at Wits University. Professor Stremlau, good morning and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Stephen.
It seems that in the last 2 months, the sort of international map of this conflict, if I can call it that's really been redrawn. You almost see the world being split into two. One side supports the Palestinians, the other supports Israel.
Well, look, it's too soon to know, and you're not going to like that answer, so I can come back to it. But you're right, there has been a lot of changes, certainly in the international alignments, and yet the most important first concern is that the plight of the Palestinian people has become a major issue. So that the leadership of Hamas did get the Palestinian people back on the agenda, and it also showed the fallacy of the Israeli thinking that they had perfect defenses, and they've invested heavily and into the United States in those defenses, and they were certainly penetrated by the Hamas people on the 7th of October. So that's been changed. But then in the geostrategic sense, China and Russia have seen an opening, and Ukraine is out of the headlines. The Abraham Accords that were going to normalize relations between Arab states and Israel are dead in the water, at least for the moment. So there are major changes that seem to be in the news, but again, I'm still struck by the fact that the fundamentals are the same as they've always been.
In other words, it's still the US supporting Israel, for example. It's still basically the map may not have been redrawn, just the someone's gone over the sort of pen and just drawn it in slightly darker ink, perhaps.
Well, I'm talking. You're right about that, Stephen. But I'm talking about a more fundamental eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth revenge. This is not as the editor of the Daily Maverick said, medieval problem. It's an Old Testament problem. The book of Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, all have stories of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And what happened here was that when the Palestinian leader Yahya Sinwar was in jail for 22 years, he plotted his revenge. And Benjamin Netanyahu bought into that revenge and has therefore sacrificed the civilian population of the Palestinian people for the sake of getting an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And you've got to break that syndrome. Nelson Mandela spent his 27 years in jail figuring out how to change the culture of South Africa. I don't care whether it's a one-state solution or a two-state solution. We've got to get out of this syndrome of eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, and that goes back even before the Old Testament to Babylon.
In the short term, obviously, the main thing to do is to stop the conflict as it is now. And there are probably really only two factors that matter here. The one is the views of because Israel's military seems to be so dominant. It's either what the Israeli people want, and it goes straight back to what you've been saying, Professor, the sort of demand for their eye and their tooth, and then you've got the United States. It seems to me, for the moment, that neither of those factors will shift in the short term. That in fact Israel is probably going to continue this in Gaza for some time.
Well, we don't know, Stephen, because if Yahya Sinwar was captured and killed, maybe there would be enough pressure on Biden domestically, and there would be enough pressure internationally to promote a two-state solution. Now, I don't like states' rights. I'd like to have a framework that would allow Arabs and Israelis to operate together in one state, because they're on both sides of that divide. But if that's what it takes to get a short-term solution, I'm with it. But you've got to get somehow beyond this conflict, and I don't think that unless you can get rid of Bibi Netanyahu, which I think the Israeli people are prepared to do. But first, they have to get a Hamas leader, namely Yahya Sinwar, and his compatriots. But Yahya Sinwar is a very clever guy, and he was able to game Bibi Netanyahu to the point where he let his guard down, and there was the invasion on October 7th. So, that's why it's too soon to know.
In the meantime, of course, what this has done has really taken, in some ways, the pressure off Russia. The United States seems to be almost distracted. That's got to be good news for the Russian President Vladimir Putin. In other words, the conflict in the Middle East is having an impact on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, it wouldn't be as good news as getting Donald Trump elected, but nevertheless, yes, it is good news. The Middle East countries are scratching their heads right now because they did want to normalize relations, it appeared, and Iran is back in the mix because they're all sympathetic to the Palestinian people, or at least their peoples are sympathetic to the Palestinian peoples. Don't forget the Middle East is the least democratic region of the global South, and so therefore, you're always talking about leaders that are envious of other leaders, rather than talking about the people, which is what the South African mindset and the transition was all about. Was changing the culture of this country from apartheid to something more inclusive. And that's what's got to happen in the Middle East, but it's not going to happen today or tomorrow.
Professor John Stremlau, thank you. Really do appreciate it. Honorary Professor of International Relations at Wits University, 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning.
Good morning.
The Lions want to win in Europe.
I know, they're excited to test their depth against Perpignan, and that's the French team that they will be taking on when they tour Europe in the United Rugby Championship. They also have the Challenge Cup on Sunday. The Joburg side have more squad depth this season, coupled with the travel tactics. They hope to be back in the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup, something they achieved last season. Scrum coach Julian Redlinghuis explains.
For you to be able to travel with one squad, or say the same 23, play that game, travel only arrive on Tuesday, then to perform again on a Saturday, that's really tough. I think that's why you'll see all the teams looking to manage their squad. It also helps with building squad depth and rewarding the guys that have been working really hard while the other guys were playing. So I think that's why we have seen that's how our teams are doing it, and also I think what we will see from the South African teams.
Soccer news, and Liverpool's Egyptian striker Mo Salah is in line for a third African Player of the Year award after being named on the shortlist. Now, Salah, who won consecutive awards for 2017 and 2018, will be up against Paris Saint-Germain defender Achraf Hakimi, a key factor in Morocco's progress to the World Cup semi-finals, as well as Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen, whose 26 goals last season steered Napoli to their first Serie A title in 33 years. Now, Nigeria's record 5-times winner Asisat Oshoala is competing for the Women's Award with South Africa's Thembi Kgatlana and the Zambia captain Barbara Banda. The winners will be announced on the 11th of December in Marrakesh. Elsewhere, Everton scored 3 times in the final 11 minutes to beat Newcastle 3-0 and move out of the English Premier League's relegation zone. In the meantime, Santos, Brazil legends Pele, his former club, have been relegated for the first time in their 111-year history. A 2-1 home defeat by Fortaleza in the final league match of the season means they drop out of Serie A, which is Brazil's top flight. And some cricket news. Zubair Hamza hit an unbeaten century on a rain-affected day 3 of the third 4-day game against the West Indies A to put South Africa A on top at the Mangaung Oval in Bloemfontein. The 28-year-old struck 110 of 152 balls, and together with a partnership of 159 with all-rounder Ruan de Swart, who hit 86. South Africa A declared on 272 for 5 to set the visitors a target of 421. With the West Indies A reaching stumps on 47 for 1. That's a wrap of your sport. We'll bring you more on Sunrise. Headlines top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. In the next half hour, we'll talk about the SANDF and we'll find out more about that press conference yesterday. You with SFM leading the conversation. Stage 3 now, stage 4 later, but you know the outlook often changes on a Friday at 6:30.
And in the headlines, police in Polokwane in Limpopo have intercepted 10 minibus taxis transporting about 133 suspected victims of human trafficking from Zimbabwe. The victims include adults and unaccompanied children. In other stories, judgment expected this morning at the Bela Bela Magistrates Court in Limpopo on the bail application of the alleged mastermind of a burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm. And the U.S. Secretary of State says there's a gap between what Israel promised to do to protect civilians during its renewed military offensive in Gaza and what is happening on the ground. Details on these and other stories at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just picking up some delays on the run-in from Boksburg and Benoni. It's a broken-down vehicle on the N12 West just by Craft Road, so it's a little bit slow as you come through from Jet Park. The N3 North, he lands up to Van Buren, is being held up. N1 South looking okay out of Pretoria down to Joburg. No major issues there this morning. If you're looking for updates for the often busy commute between Pietermaritzburg and Durban, the good news this Friday is it is clear. N2 starting to build through Spaghetti Junction, whether you're pushing onto the N3 inbound through the roadworks or whether you're pushing up towards the M13 bridge and those restrictions, it is already very busy. And Cape Town, a bit of traffic backlogging this morning coming in from Belleville. There seems to be an obstruction of some sort just around sort of Plattercliff Hill area. Also Stellenbosch Arterial Road queuing up out of Cales River and delays through to the R300. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Ray McClarker, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Indeed. Asian markets, US markets, how are they looking?
While both markets are mostly down, investors are anticipating data that will be released later today about the number of jobs that the US economy created in November. Investors are worried that if too many jobs are created, then the US central bank will continue increasing interest rates. If more Americans are in jobs and earning an income, then the bank would believe that they are able to withstand an environment of high interest rates. So US markets were mostly up yesterday, and before the US market officially opens later today, the futures market is down. Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P futures are each down 0.1%. In Asian markets, China's Shanghai Composite is up 0.4%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng is up 0.2%, and Japan's Nikkei is down 1.7%, and the dollar to the rand is 18.76.
And then consumer confidence falling in the fourth quarter. Why could that be?
Well, consumers are feeling gloomy about their finances and will probably not be in the mood to spend money this festive season. The Consumer Confidence Index tracks how optimistic or pessimistic consumers are about their financial situation and the state of the economy. And the Consumer Confidence Index fell to minus 17 points in the fourth quarter. This is the lowest festive season consumer confidence reading in more than 2 decades. Overall, this means that consumers are likely to save more money and spend less, which will be bad news for a South African economy that is not growing strong enough.
And then the Commission looking at the minimum wage, they've recommended an increase of above inflation.
Yeah, the National Minimum Wage Commission is recommending an above-inflation increase for minimum wages next year. This year, the hourly minimum wage increased by 9.6%. The wage went from 23 Rand and 19 cents per hour to 25 Rand and 42 cents per hour. The Commission wants the hourly minimum wage rate to be increased by the inflation rate plus 3%. This works out to an increase of about 8.9%. The Commission has invited members of the public to write submissions and recommendations for minimum wage increases for next year.
Ray Machlaka, thank you very much indeed. Ray, of course, back in an hour's time. More business news through the day here on SAFM.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Arrest Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning.
Steve, a very fresh morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners.
All right, lots going on in Egypt, the elections there. How will people actually vote for a president?
Stephen, this is for Sunday, the 10th to the 12th, but they've already started on the 1st to the 3rd of December, Stephen, what they call voting for diaspora. And that's where we have picked up that there were many people, and we're talking of 67 million Egyptians above the age of 18 who are eligible to vote, despite 104 million population. When you look at the candidates, Stephen, we know Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is one of the candidates, but we have another one, Abdullah Sanada Yamama, who's the one from the party, Liberal whatever party, who's saying save Egypt. At the same time, you have an economist as well who is running for this election, Hazem Omar. He's a person who has been pushing also in the Foreign Relations Committee in Egypt. The last candidate being the one of Egyptian Socialist Democratic Party, Farid Zahara, who's also contesting with Abdullah Al-Tafat Sisi for these elections. Observers, there are many, Stephen, if one looks at these elections, 24 embassies, 67 diplomats, 220 international observers, but our focus will be the African Union and the Arab League, as well as the EU, who are observing these elections in Cairo. Knowing Cairo, Stephen, these elections, at the same time you have a conflict in the Middle East, and at the same time you have a conflict on the Nile River between Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. These are important elections. We're expecting the results on the 18th of December.
And then we've got the situations in Sierra Leone. The former president there, Ernest Bai Koroma, he's been called in for questioning over this failed coup.
Yes, when you look at the former president, Stephen, it's not only him, only they have arrested his aide before. Now, the former president was summoned yesterday for the November 26th foiled coup that happened in Sierra Leone, Freetown. This, we have been given the numbers now. 71 people have been arrested from the 53 that we have mentioned. It means that the dossier for this attempted military coup is been building up, with the former president, Ernest Bai Koroma, being called upon by the investigation committee.
And then in Kenya, now we've seen Malawians going to work in Israel, very controversial. Now 1,500 Kenyans are going to go and work in Israel.
And this has faced criticism in the social media, in the diplomatic corners, about why Kenya is sending its casual farm laborers to work in Israel when there is a conflict between the state of Israel and the state of Palestine, with a conflict that erupted in October. Now, Kenyans, they will also stay, Stephen, they've been waiting on this. They've been having relations with Israel dating back. Kenya is trying to fight unemployment crisis that they're facing as a country, but it seems they can also sacrifice their own workers to go and work in a war zone in Israel.
And then in our archives, 8th of December 1991, I love this.
It's 32 years ago, Stephen, when the South African Football Association was founded after a long period of racial segregation. Umluleki George was elected as the interim chair for the first year of SAFA. You'll recall there were many associations, from the Indians in Kimberley to come to the Bantu Football Association, the colored community. And that's where, Stephen, it was important to amalgamate and to have this integration of the South African Football Association. Despite its challenges, Stephen, they've been pushing and pulling by all means as the association. Asante Sana, as was still leading the conversation, SAFM.
Sipho Mantula, thank you so much. Sipho, of course, back with us on Monday mornings from our continent through the day. 21 minutes to 7.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Mbona in Mahakeng. Mbona, hi, the United States and Israel. Go for it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mbona.
USA is funding Israel.
Yeah.
To fight Palestine. And Israel is funding DA.
I don't know about that. I don't think Israel's funding the DA.
Yeah, we're hearing that in news that DA is funded by Israel.
No. I think there's an Israeli, there might be one or two people who are linked to Israel who are funding the DA, but it's not Israel funding the DA.
Yeah, I think you can find out, but can you see the link there that US is funding Israel and Israel is funding DA?
No, Mbona, I'm sorry, I don't see a link.
You don't see the link?
No.
Ah.
Right.
But you should see it.
No, Mbona, it's not Israel. There might be one or two people who live in Israel or spend some time in Israel who funded the DA, but I think that's sort of where it ends. I don't think there's any other link.
Okay, no, let's hope so. But the suffering with the people of Gaza and the suffering of people of RSA must not be there.
All right. Mbona, I'll leave it there in Mahakeng. Thank you. I don't think we can... I think that might be stretching things a little far. I was talking earlier about the family history of Mavuso Mzamang and how I didn't realize his father was actually at the formation of the ANC. John on the line from Randburg. Hi. You know a bit more about his history.
Well, I do, because I've become friendly with Mavuso over the last 4 years or so in my work, and he phones me from time to time, and it's always such an interesting conversation. And he called me a couple of months ago to tell me that he was concerned that his father's grave, Richard Msamang, was really not being properly tended, and he was one of the people that we needed who were part of our heritage, etc. And then we got into talking about other things, and apparently his father's grave is, I think, in Soweto and Avalon, and he's wanting to have it sort of properly sort of recognized and memorialized so that we can understand our history. So we share this deep concern about understanding history. And he then went on to tell me that his father had actually been, yes, as Alcala said, involved in the drafting, apparently, of the code of conduct for the ANC right at the very start. But then interestingly, I said, but what about Selby Msamang? Now, Selby Msamang was a founder member of the Liberal Party. He said, yeah, that was his brother. So we've got this interesting aristocracy. And it got even more interesting. He said his big grandfather, or one of the ancestors, fought in the Battle of Isandlwana. but not for the Zulus, for the British.
Wow.
and
Sure.
was actually, should have got the Victoria Cross for his bravery. But they didn't award it to black people, so there was a bit of an injustice there. And I was just so impressed with Mavusa's sort of, kind of ability to look beyond and transcend history, but at the same time to know your history.
Sure.
Anyway, so that's a very interesting thought about him, which I wanted to share.
No, just the idea of, one person being in the ANC and the others forming the Liberal Party and their brothers is astonishing. Wow, John and Randburg, thank you for that. I didn't know that. 17 minutes to 7.
It's the celebration of the century, and you're invited. We've already given away almost 3 million rand with 56 daily vouchers won. Buy a new Ford before 31 December, and you could win a 50,000 rand voucher or the grand prize of us paying for your new Ford. Visit your nearest Ford dealer today. TNCs apply. Mamelodi Sundowns and Egyptian outfit Pyramids FC have collected maximum points in their Group A opening matches. They now tackle each other in search of victory. Masandawana want to ensure their visitors walk away without any joy, but Pyramids FC are confident they will upset the 2016 champs. This is the CAF Champions League. Grootes battles it out with East Cairo. Experience the African flavor of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Pyramids FC on Sunday 10 December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, over the last few months, you've heard from the organisation Open Secrets. They've published claims and evidence that a group of people within the SANDF have murdered and tortured people. It started when an Ethiopian national was kidnapped from the Mall of Africa, while vehicles belonging to a special forces unit of the SANDF were in the parking lot. Then a Hawks investigator, Frans Matipa, who was probing that abduction, was killed. He was shot dead while in a moving car. Last week came reports of how a man was killed in the military police bar on a base while being questioned about the theft of R4 machine guns. Yesterday, the SANDF finally responding to the claims, the chief of the SANDF, General Rudzani Mapwanya, saying that there was no murder or torture squad in the SANDF.
It is also concerning that the media houses and the Open Secret chose to withhold the information that can assist law enforcement agencies to investigate and incongruously decided to publish it for whatever reason. This can be equated to a reprehensible motive or an act of defeating the ends of justice. We can state clearly, without any ambiguity, that the Defense Force operates in a constitutional and democratic state where all government institutions operate and adheres to democratic principles of the state. Therefore, like any other government department, the Defense Force can be scrutinized for anything that might seem to be going against the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and that must be done within the framework of openness and transparency. For the record, there are no military squads in the Defense Force that exist to carry out acts of torture and murder for whatever reasons. The South African National Defense Force stands for the defense and the protection of the people and will always act within the confines of the law and the Constitution.
The chief of the SANDF, General Rudzani Mapwanya, speaking yesterday. We did ask the SANDF for someone to speak to you this morning to put the questions to live on radio. No one was made available, but they have now had their press conference. Henny van Vuren is back with us now, the director of Open Secrets. Henny, good morning. So we have a bold denial from the SANDF. They say no one has done these things. Are you convinced by what was said yesterday?
Yeah, Stephen, good morning to you. Good morning to the listeners. I'm certainly not convinced in that hour and a half We heard nothing of substance, unfortunately, from the chief of the SANDF, his chief of staff, and the head of defense intelligence, who all flanked him. And the suggestion that was made, as you've heard in that, the listeners have heard in that clip, is that effectively Open Secrets and organizations and the media who have reported on this carte blanche and others could open themselves up to legal challenges and possibly even a criminal challenge for not reporting certain crimes. Of course, this isn't this is an attempt both to intimidate organizations like ourselves, and it's an absolute lie, because the people who have produced the evidence is not only ourselves, but they are people who have spoken out. And in two significant instances, when we speak to the issue of torture, Stephen, one of those is a man by the name of, there's one man by the name of Pule Nkomo, who in fact has gone and laid charges and is making a civil claim against the SANDF for the torture and the harm that he has suffered. And the person who's cited there is the chief of the SANDF. And so those papers have been delivered to the chief of the SANDF months ago, and the Defence Force has responded to that. And secondly, there has been a board of inquiry into malfeasance and abuse, including corruption, and we believe the allegations of torture were also heard by a military board of inquiry headed by Brigadier Moorhouse. He produced a report. That report was handed to the chief of the SANDF some 6 months ago, and he's gathering dust on his desk. Yesterday, he couldn't explain what was happening with that report, but we believe it too has information about torture and possibly the murder, of which we've written about in some of our investigations. So the chief of the SANDF, in fact, has that information because it has been whistleblowers and people who have evidence of this which have brought this to his attention. The problem is that the SANDF has not acted on any of that information. So I think then to turn around and to start to blame those who write about this, journalists and others, is an attempt to scapegoat us. But the truth is, there's no indication yesterday from the SANDF that they are taking these matters seriously and that they are planning to deal with which are very serious crimes implicating very senior members of the SANDF.
Did you speak to the SANDF before you published your reports?
We certainly contacted the SANDF. We gave them the right of response throughout, Stephen. And the Russian doll series we've been publishing in the Daily Maverick we've published this over a number of months. And at each point, we provided an opportunity. During when we wrote our first article, we did get a response from the SANDF, and thereafter it was silence. We were told most recently, by the spokesperson for the SANDF, who sat on that panel yesterday as well, that the SANDF will only respond once we have published all of our material. So they have chosen the route of silence, and we've contacted the individual members that were cited in our articles, including General Lawrence Mbata, the chief of the army, who's implicated in these torture actions, the Rear Admiral Mapoto, the head of military police, who's implicated in these torture actions, and from them we did not hear a word.
You've written to the president. What do you believe he needs to do about this?
Yeah, so Stephen, I think from our side at Open Secrets, we recognize that the military are not going to solve this problem on their own. We'll put pressure as civil society for things to move, but it's ultimately going to be up to the politicians to speak out. And we haven't heard anything, not one word from any one of the politicians yet on these allegations of torture and murder. And of course, the murder of Lieutenant Colonel Franz Matipa, that senior Hawks official, where we believe some of the same individuals in special forces involved in torture were certainly being investigated by Matipa and might very well be linked to his assassination 4 months ago. So we've written to the president. We've asked him to intervene and for him to institute a speedy inquiry into this matter. And it's important now that the president can't say, I simply didn't know, I run a big country and there are many things on my mind. We've written to him and the Minister of Defense. And we've also informed him that yesterday we wrote to United Nations Special Rapporteurs on torture and extrajudicial killings, and we've asked them as UN bodies to investigate this. They have, immediately we have received the first of those responses yesterday, and so we believe that this will be the beginning of, we hope, an international investigation into some of these crimes, putting pressure on our politicians to act in favor of the Constitution and ensure that should there be further abuses, they are prevented, and those who have abused authority, who have effectively harmed people's human rights, are investigated and suspended where that's required.
Henny van Vuuren, thank you, Director of Open Secrets. 8 minutes now to 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you do the run-in from Walkerville on the R82 into Joburg, just coming up through sort of Kibler Park and Aikenoff area, there is a bit of traffic pressure there this morning. That R82 going north is queuing where it normally doesn't. The N12 in from Boksburg and Benoni to Joburg being held by a couple of stationary trucks, one on the N12 west at Craft Road and one on the off-ramp as well. So it's a queue that extends back as far as the R21 interchange. Clayville's Olifantsfontein heading towards the R21 is quite slow, and there's a backlog on the R55. Now, if you're coming out of Laudium and you're making your way down past the Swartkops on your way towards sort of the N14, there is a big backlog of traffic there. That traffic queuing on the 55 down towards the Vrede Road junction. It'll probably be like that for some time this morning. Durban, the Richmond Road, leaving Marion Hill up towards the N3. That's all heavy. That's the Mike 1 Richmond Road coming out of Marion Hill area. Cape Town, generally a little bit lighter this morning, particularly Marine Drive. It's busy, the Sunset Beach, but nowhere near you might be expecting. Bosmanstown Road stays really badly backed up. Big queues in from Edgemead and Bortisuk as you get across the N7. Heavy pressure down towards the Montague Drive exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's the celebration of the century, and you're invited. We've already given away almost 3 million rand with 56 daily vouchers won. Buy a new Ford before 31 December, and you could win a 50,000 rand voucher or the grand prize of us paying for your new Ford. Visit your nearest Ford dealer today. TNCs apply. Sekhukhune United target a win in their own backyard against Stade Malien FC. Meanwhile, the Malian side refused to travel back home empty-handed. This is the CAF Confederation Cup Group D clash. Catch Sekhukhune United versus Stade Malien FC on Sunday 10 December at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag SAFM Sunrise.
6 minutes to 7. Good morning. The ANC says it's sad to see that its veteran member Mvuso Mzimang's decided to leave the movement, but that it still values the long contribution he made. The ANC leader, President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying yesterday that he still holds Mzimang in the highest regard. However, this week also, the ANC Secretary-General, Fikile Mbalula, saying veteran members should not decampaign the organisation. Yesterday on SAFM Sunrise, you heard Mvuso Mzimang telling you why he was leaving the ANC, saying corruption had now become part of its DNA. Omri Makwale is himself a long-time member of the ANC and a political commentator as well. Omri, good morning and thanks for your time.
Morning, Stephen, and morning to your listeners.
Mvuso Mzimang, a member of the ANC for over 60 years. His father was at the formation of the ANC in 1912. How important is this moment for the ANC?
Well, it's a very serious moment for us because if you have a member who has been with the ANC for more than 60 years and his father is a founder member, it's very sad when he has to leave. Very, very sad.
A big part of this is the failure of the ANC to deal with the people implicated in the Zondo Commission. And there's a little bit of history to this, but the National Executive Committee said people against whom findings were made must report to the Integrity Commission. A few did. I think Gwede Mantashe did, for example, as chair. But as I understand it, 95 people in the ANC who were implicated did not report to the Integrity Commission, and nothing has happened to them. I mean, it seems the ANC can't deal with this issue.
Yes. When it doesn't have the current leadership doesn't have the will to deal with the issue. It's not that the ANC can deal with the issue. It's the current leadership that doesn't have the will to deal with this issue. Because the idea is that all those implicated should be moved out of offices, go and clear themselves outside the offices of the leadership, whether it's in the NEC or the minister. They should be out of the offices and go and clear themselves on their own. Should not be the responsibility of the ANC to clean them. They must clean themselves and only be deployed back into office when they are cleared. And that's the idea, and this is why we can't depend on then you should be removed. No, we have integrity norms inside the ANC. And so anybody who is implicated should step aside and be out of office. And that's the idea, that Comrade Mabuso is talking about. And we've been working on this, that we need as a minimum to remove all those implicated in Zondo, all those implicated in DPS, and all those implicated in solid waste and Limpopo water waste, and all those standards, the farm or, asbestos project in the Free State, all those implicated should not be in office, in any form of the ANC. They should step aside, clear themselves, and only after they've cleared themselves, then they can be considered for any office. But for now, they should be out of office. And so, because we have to clean the ANC. And I can understand the frustrations of Comrade Mabuso. I respect him very hard, and I have been working with him under his leadership. And of course, for me, I'm disappointed that he had to leave this way. I hope to continue talking to him.
Do you think voters see that the ANC? I mean, how do you think voters see all of this? Mavuso Mzamang's an important figure.
Yes, look, the voters who are very matured are aware that the ANC is in deep crisis, and they understand why Comrade Mavuso is going this. Of course, they are disappointed that what he has been talking about in the NEC of the veterans list, the issues they've raised at the NEC of the veterans list, has not been addressed by the current NEC under President Ramaphosa and Malula, and President Manchash. And they're sad about that. But we continue to put those issues on the table that they should be addressed. We can't have a list of candidates who are implicated in Zondo Commission, who are implicated in VPS scandal, who are implicated in the farm scandal, who are implicated in asbestos. We can't have those people in the list of candidates of ANC in the next election. If we expect to get any votes from any realistic vote. So we should clean ourselves. It's a responsibility of the ANC to clean itself. It cannot be cleaned by the police or the NPA or the Hawks. It must clean itself. And we must remove all those people as the ANC, because we know that they are not credible. They've done much damage to the country. They've done much damage to the country. The ANC,
Omri Mokwale, thanks very much indeed. Political commentator, veteran member of the ANC himself. All right, lots to come in the next little while. We'll take your calls on that, of course. I think the Mavuso Mzamang issue is an important issue, and there's sort of lots of directions that this goes in. We'll talk about the beaches ahead of the sort of big Christmas getaway, people going home, people going on holiday. We'll talk about that in the next half hour. Don't forget, by the way, from 8:30, your story of the week. What for you is the most important thing that happened this week? You were there, SAFM, leading the conversation at 7 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Stories this hour, another group of suspected human trafficking victims intercepted, and U.S. raises concerns over Israel's military offensive in Gaza. Good morning. Police in Polokwane in Limpopo have intercepted 10 minibus taxis transporting about 133 suspected victims of human trafficking from Zimbabwe. The victims include adults and unaccompanied children. Last week, the Border Management Authority announced that it had intercepted 42 buses carrying unaccompanied children from Zimbabwe at the Bay Bridge border post in Musina. The police spokesperson, Hlulani Mashaba, says all the relevant departments will process the victims before action is taken against those suspected to be behind the trafficking.
We have intercepted 10 taxis along the N1 highway towards Pretoria. It was just outside Polokwane here. We have actually processed over 133 victims of suspected human trafficking. These include children and adults. We have summoned all the role players. These include also Home Affairs, so that they can check them as to where they are coming from. In most likely cases, these people are going to be deported back to their border.
The Bela Bela Magistrates Court in Limpopo is this morning expected to deliver judgment in the bail application of the alleged mastermind of a burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm. Emanuela David and two co-accused are facing charges of robbery and theft of over $580,000 from the farm in February 2020. David is facing an additional charge of money laundering. Mahlatse Paladi reports.
Both the state and the defense are expected to make their closing statement following testimony and cross-examinations of the state witness and the accused. The investigating officer has told the court that the accused must not be granted bail as he does not have a stable address and could interfere with their investigations. The defense also argued that the accused must be granted bail as his arrest is not in the interest of justice. The defense said that the state is succumbing to political pressure as the crime happened in 2020 but was only investigated in 2022 following alleged cover-up reports. Magistrate Ponan postponed the matter to deliberate on the judgment to be handed down today.
A man convicted of tavern killings in Northam outside Tabazimbi in Limpopo has started to serve a lengthy jail term. Mahulubela Tanki was sentenced to 3 life and 142 years jail terms by the High Court in Polokwane yesterday. His accomplice, who turned state witness, and another man were found not guilty. Tanki shot and killed 3 patrons and wounded 8 others during robbery at a tavern in Northam 4 years ago. The police spokesperson Hlulani Mashaba says Tanki fled with undisclosed amount of money and cigarettes.
Produced a firearm and fired shots randomly at them. 3 people were shot dead and 8 wounded. Suspects made off with an undisclosed amount of money and cigarettes. Cases of murder and attempted murder. Bela Taki, who's 39 years, as follows: 3 life imprisonment for 3 counts of murder, 120 years imprisonment for 8 counts of attempted murder, 15 years imprisonment for 1 count of armed robbery, 5 years imprisonment for possession of unlicensed firearm.
The Herigwala District Municipality in the south of KwaZulu-Natal has sent disaster management teams to assist families affected by Sunday and Monday's heavy rains, strong winds and hail. About 128 people from 32 households are affected in areas including Umgungundlovu. The municipal spokesperson Ndabezitha Tenza says officials are on the ground distributing aid.
We have provided disaster relief materials to the affected households. Our relief materials includes blankets, mattresses, and plastic rolls. The disaster management team is still on the ground conducting the damage assessment. Once the assessment report is completed, we'll be able to decide on the way forward in this matter.
And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says there's a gap between what Israel promised to do to protect civilians during its renewed military offensive in Gaza and what is happening on the ground. Blinken was speaking at a news conference in Washington.
It remains imperative that Israel put a premium on civilian protection, not only having these safe areas, but making sure that the communications are such that people know where they can go, when they can go there safely, making sure that the areas that they go to are fully resourced and supplied with food, medicine, water. Also making sure that in areas that are clearly out of the conflict zone, that they remain so.
Recapping our top story this hour, police in Polokwane in Limpopo have intercepted 10 minibus taxis transporting about 133 suspected victims of human trafficking from Zimbabwe. The victims include adults and unaccompanied children. I'll be back with the headlines at the bottom of the hour. For SFM News, I'm Nomalizo Mandela.
Nomalizo, thank you. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. This festive season, a little extra cash could go a long way. Outsurance could save you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, you can ask for 500 Rand cash. That's a monthly saving on your current premium, or 500 Rand cash, or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free for 3 years with the same insurer. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. That's out to 38462. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, rugby, the Blitzbokke, they're targeting a Cape Town Sevens title. And in soccer news, Itumeleng Khune stripped of his Kaizer Chiefs captaincy. Let's find out more just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just an update on the run out of Centurion. If you're on your way south of Laudium on the R55, it's been quite a big crash near Vrieda Road, so just expect possible delays coming down to that one. Other side of Gauteng, the R82 is under pressure. You're going to be asked to queue this morning if you drive in from Walkerville, moving through Aikenhoff and into Kibler Park. And a broken down truck or two on the N12 at Jet Park Road, beg your pardon, at Craft Road. That's pushed traffic back past Jet Park and back towards the R21. It's a heavy run in from the Boksburg side today. Durban, bit of pressure into Pinetown, both the M7 towards the N3 and the Richmond Road coming up from Marin Hill towards the N3. Both of those routes are queuing up. Cape Town crash, right shoulder lane blocked on the N1 inbound at Plattercliff. That is keeping traffic busy with onlookers on the run through from the Belleville side. Very heavy around Valhalla Park, Epping and down in towards Bishop Lavis. That whole busy commuting area with some load shedding until 8 a.m. this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
7 after 7, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Probably the last working Friday of the year, really. If you consider that next Friday, the 15th, is a public holiday. Don't forget that, by the way. Thank you to the Springboks for winning the Rugby World Cup to get us that public holiday. The 16th, the Saturday, is a public holiday, but it's Saturday. And by then, I think we'll all really be on holiday. I know that I will, I'm afraid. I can't imagine how much more you're looking forward to. It really is so much that's been going on this year. We'll check in with some of the coastal places, some of the towns. We look at the Eastern Cape, we look at the Western Cape, we look at KwaZulu-Natal, just see how prepared they are. Also, I'm very interested in the economic impact of this period. So if you look at some of the small sort of coastal areas, for example, around, and we'll speak to the mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality in a moment, and look at some of the towns there, how important Christmas is to them. A whole lot of money comes in, people come in, people go home, whatever it is, and we'll find out a bit more about that and the impact of that. So that to come. This is also a very good moment for you, by the way, to book your spot with Mdu and Stanza for your story of the week. You know the number 086 000 2032. What for you has been the story of the week? Maybe Mavuso Mzamang, maybe Gaza, maybe the situation around the Pala inquiry yesterday, maybe the new Eskom CEO. Everyone says it's Dan Murakane. Let's see, Cabinet, I think, is meeting on that today. So, good moment to book your spot, 9 after 7.
Aquele.
Aquele.
Aqueli.
Aquela.
Aquele.
Aquili.
Aquele.
Aquela. No matter how you say it, one thing's for sure, Aquele has been your trusted natural spring water and delicious flavored sparkling drink for 25 years. Celebrating 25 years of refreshment and joy. Thank you, Mzansi, for your support and making us your favorite water brand. Aquele, spreading joy for 25 years.
Sekhukhune United target a win in their own backyard against Stade Malien FC. Meanwhile, the Malian side refused to travel back home empty-handed. This is the CAF Confederation Cup Group D clash. Catch Sekhukhune United versus Stade Malien FC on Sunday 10 December at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on their SABC bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide its governance, to amend the ICASA Act of 2000 and the Electronic Communications Act of 2005. For more information, contact the Portfolio Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies by emailing sabcbill@parliament.gov.za, directed to Hanjiera Sali.
Agenda setting conversations of the day.
11 after 7, good morning. Well, it's the last full working week of the year. Next week, the Great Migration. People go to places like Limpopo, Northwest. They go home. Huge movements to the coast. Go away, look for time to spend on beaches with families and friends. And as you know, there have been problems in some areas, particularly in Durban. Raw sewage has been pumped into rivers that flow into the sea, polluting some of the beaches. We'll talk to Durban in a moment, but we start your conversation this morning and your coverage in the Eastern Cape with the OR Tambo Tambo District Municipality, which is responsible for the areas around Mthatha, but also for several of the smaller beach towns in the Eastern Cape. The Executive Mayor of the O Tambo District Municipality is Councillor Masuli Nkonwana. Mr. Mayor, good morning and thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning to you and the listeners.
What preparations are you making for the holiday season? Are you expecting a lot of people to come through?
Yes, we are expecting quite a lot of people to come through. As you will recall that the Eastern Cape is also a labour-sending community, so we'll be expecting a lot of people from other provinces will be coming home for holidays. But there's also holiday makers from across the country that often visit our spaces during this season. And we have sought to put together a huge contingent or a multidisciplinary team that comprises of stakeholders like social development, SAPS, our local municipalities, the Department of Transport, to ensure that all such services that will be required during this period are available at all our beaches. As you'll recall that we have got a total of 27 beaches within the OR Tambo district.
So your beaches are going to be safe. I mean, we haven't heard problems of the water quality there, but is crime a problem sometimes?
Yes, it definitely is a problem. Hence, we have sought to up our game in terms of our own foot patrollers. As the municipality, we've hired additional 39 to ensure that we do not run short in terms of dispersing them to our spaces. But we also have got a strong working relation with SAPS, which has also committed to be part of the team throughout all our beaches. But I may also mention that the social development will be around to take responsibility for special groups of people like children, etc., to ensure that they are tagged and once found wanting, they are able to be reunited with their parents.
There are lots of things that go on at this time. As you say, you're a sort of labour sending area, so people are coming in, they're coming home. There are also people coming from Gauteng, some may even have holiday homes, who knows. Do you have all of the facilities to deal with these people, to look after these people? You're going to have enough people on the roads to make sure the roads are safe, that kind of thing?
Yes, we have got a safety festive plan that comprises of these stakeholders. So our focus will not only be on the beaches. In fact, our roads have started already to be flooded with the high volumes of traffic by travelers from the Western Cape, from Limpopo, from Mpumalanga, from Gauteng that are making their way to back home. So at most critical points and spots, we will be having our personnel manning the roads, manning the situation, ensuring that as people travel, they are in the safest of conditions.
How important is this time to your economy? I mean, you've got all of these people coming back, they'll bring things with them, people come and spend money there. How important is that for your economy?
It is very important for our economy because, just for argument's sake, I may mention that we have got a very long hiking trail which starts in the Wild Coast in the Ingquza Hill local municipality through Mkambat Nature Reserve and go to end at the KSD local municipality at Hole in the Wall, an approximately 165 kilometer stretch of a hiking trail. And in that hiking trail, I may mention that there's quite a lot of activities that happen that will include your sightseeing, bird watching, indigenous medical plans, beaches, kayaking, boat rides, massages, etc. There's accommodation all over. So now, in terms of job creation, it works a lot in our advantage. Even in addition to that, as you will notice, the flooding into the towns makes sure that even the retail shops hire more people to ensure that there's jobs created during this important period. But what is also important is that all those accommodation areas along the beaches get the much needed sustenance to ensure that they are able to compete in the economic space throughout the financial year. So it's a great and exciting opportunity for us as the district.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. The Mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality, Councillor Masuli Nkonwana. You're with SAFM, 16 minutes after 7. Well, that's the situation in part of the Eastern Cape. In Cape Town, some concerns over the water quality at several of the beaches this year. Beaches at Hout Bay, Fish Hoek, Camps Bay, labelled red in the city's coastal water review. Leslie Petrick is Emeritus Professor in the Department of Chemistry at the University of the Western Cape. Professor Petrick, good morning to you. What's wrong with the water on these beaches? Why are they being labelled red?
Good morning. Yes, you see, the thing is that testing is done by the city to check for whether there is fecal pollution in the water. In other words, is there sewage in the water? The testing that they do is to see if E. coli or Enterococcus bacteria are there, and those are indicator bacteria. The reason why the city tests for them is because that indicates that there is sewage in the water. And if sewage is there, these bacteria indicate that there might be pathogens like viruses or other bacteria that can make you sick. So when the label is red, it tells you that actually the water has got sewage in it. And this is not a surprise because we have got 3 marine outfalls pumping raw sewage out into the sea at Greenpoint, Camps Bay and Hart Bay. And on top of that, many of the wastewater treatment plants in the Western Cape, just like in the rest of the country, have not been maintained properly and they are not functioning properly. So they discharge effluent that has got sewage in it. And this travels through the rivers and out through our estuaries and surf zones into the sea. And that contaminates the water. So there are definitely problems with our seawater. And the city's data shows this.
As I understand it, the city of Cape Town's been pumping raw sewage into the sea, for years and years, probably 100 years. Are there other methods it could use? Obviously, if you've got problems with sewage pumps, that's always an issue. We've seen that in KwaZulu-Natal recently. Are there other things the city could do to fix this, to stop doing this forever?
Well, I'm certainly hoping that budget will be allocated towards replacing the marine outfalls with proper wastewater treatment plants. But up to date, the city defends their practice and says that there's no budget for it. I'm hoping that this changes. But, the first step is that the city is repairing its wastewater treatment plants, but that's a long-term solution. A budget has been allocated to fixing up the wastewater treatment plants, but they're starting with the big ones like the Potsdam one, and they want to move to the other side of the coast to Macassar on the False Bay side, because those two are really causing a problem on the beaches at Milnerton and down in Gordons Bay. So there is hope. The city is starting to amend the problems that they inherited from the long-term neglect of those wastewater treatment plants. But for the marine outfalls at this stage, there isn't hope.
Professor, thank you. Leslie Petrick, Emeritus Professor in the Department of Chemistry at the University of the Western Cape with SFM. Just coming up now to 20 minutes after 7. Well, in eThekwini, the city there says it's ready for the holiday season. It's taken steps to ensure that holidaymakers will be safe. It's installed new cameras and crime hotspots. The problems Durban had with its beaches last year. The Mayor of eThekwini is Councillor Mxolisi Kawunda. Mr. Mayor, good morning to you and thank you for your time. Are all of your beaches now safe? Is the water at all of your beaches safe for swimmers this December?
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your viewers. Thank you for having us in your program. Indeed, our first that plan entails to respond to issues of security. Hence, we have deployed a new fleet of Metropolis 62 vehicles. That is why they are found in each and every corner, especially the areas which we have identified as hotspots in the city, so that we can guarantee safety of our residents as well as our visitors. As we speak, we have collaborated with the independent scientist organizations to test the quality of our water in our beaches. We can confirm that there are 23 beaches which are operating fully in eThekwini, and the results are positive. So whenever we found that there is a problem with one of those beaches, we shut it down, we give it the problem. We have done an extensive work in terms of repairing our infrastructure, but there is still work in progress to ascertain that at least all our beaches in the main, those which attract tourists, are also opened. the issues relating to other infrastructure and facilities, we have 84 swimming pools that are already operational, and we are finalizing one that is called paddling pool, which will be finalized before the 20th of December because the rain has been disrupting the construction that is in place on the repairs. But we are also ready, Stephen. When we say we are ready, we mean it. Durban is open for business because we have also repaired our own CCTV cameras. We put ourselves of end of November, and we met that. So all our cameras in the CPT, in our promenade, in the beach, you zoom to Umla's areas, Guamashu, Verelem, and many other areas. We are now able to see what is happening in those areas with an intention of capping crime before crime takes place. So we are hopeful that working on community crime fighting organizations, law enforcement agencies, indeed, eThekwini is ready, and we have put a clear plan to coordinate our festive season, festivals and major events. So we are in control, and we hope that everyone who will be will enjoy holidays and will have a memorable festive season.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask you to, I know you're in an area with very bad cell phone reception. Load shedding makes this very difficult. If you can move around to improve it, I'd really appreciate it. So, I mean, last year, it was a bit difficult, but last year, you basically had to go swimming in front of the cameras to prove that the beaches were safe. Have you been swimming this year without the cameras because no one's so worried about it?
Yeah, we swam last year because we needed to give a guarantee to our visitors and our residents that our beaches were ready. With the cameras, we've been able, within the short space of time after we've completed repairs, there were vehicles which were hijacked, and we were able to follow them, and we were able to recover those vehicles. So it shows that this fusion center that we have, it does work in terms of ensuring that we curb crime, and we are also able to trace whatever that has occurred in the city.
So we know you had a difficult holiday season last year. We've all discussed that many times. How important is the holiday season to your economy? I mean, your holiday economy, and it's a big part of your economy. You've got people coming home, you've got people coming just for holidays. How important is this period to your economy in eThekwini?
Indeed, we are a tourist city, so it's important that you always increase your numbers. We anticipate that we will receive 950,000 visitors with their direct contribution in the GDP of the city. We build about economic spin-offs within the growth of the tourism sector, because it is one sector that was hit hard during COVID-19, during the civil unrest, as well as affected by the floods and our infrastructure, which was contaminating. So now we are seeing the growth starting from the Easter holidays this year. There's a sign that is positive that shows the growth that the center itself, hotels, especially we are anticipating that at least let us have more than 62%.
Sure. So 950,000 people just coming to eThekwini during this period. That's about 1/60th of the population. It's a huge movement of people. It does Durban, and we hear people tell us about the infrastructure in eThekwini's been badly damaged. There was the violence. There's been a lack of maintenance. Is your infrastructure, your roads, all of those sorts of things, your sewage facilities, are they going to be able to cope with so many people?
Yes, indeed. We are making a good progress in terms of our rebuilding process and recovery. As a city, most of our facilities and our assets are now working. So we are going to be able to carry the demand that will be brought back, and they are catered for. And all our shopping centers, all our hotels, all our restaurants are ready. In the rural areas, we do have destinations which have got more to offer to our citizens and our visitors. In Umlazi, Mbumbulu, many areas around the city, Kwamashu, Inanda, and we are looking forward to give them what they are looking for. And you know, Stephen, that the weather is always on our side. Our beaches are warm, and they provide what tourists are looking for.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed for your time. New Year's Eve coming up. Are you going to be back spinning the decks again this New Year's Eve for your plans?
Thank you very much. We are really wishing everyone the safety holidays, and our plans are really ready to host everyone up until February next year. Those visitors will have a long duration in our city. They will indeed enjoy their holidays. We wish everyone the Merry Christmas and really prosperous New Year. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed. The Mayor of eThekwini, Councillor Nkolisi Kaunda. You may have seen a picture of him on the decks once or twice. All right, lots to come in the next little while. You were there, SAFM, 27 after 7.
Hope you're well. Listen, I see Michelle's drove now you're in with such a fancy car. And then I asked her, is this your new car? She said, no, it's pre-owned and she bought it for a bargain from We Buy Cars. It's a fancy bloody ding hoor. Apparently they didn't trade it in her Oma's car and then they got this one. No, you must go look. Michelle says it's a dream car and she bought it for a bargain. She herself couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the price.
We Buy Cars, the best place to buy a car by far.
Individual brilliance always adds a superb vibe to the team. Sami Sohail of Malawi holds the highest batting average in 2020 internationals. Dhruv Maisuriya of Botswana is the quickest to reach 50 wickets in 2020 internationals, and Francisco Kouana of Mozambique is the first player to score a century and take 5 wickets in the same 2020 internationals. Catch these African stars in action of the BNP Group Africa Cup this December, live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. The Sevens.
Yes, and we've got the Blitzbokker looking to break an 8-year drought on home soil. The Sevens head coach Sandile Ngobo naming Tiaan Pretorius as the only new player in his squad for this weekend's Sevens tournament, with the former SA School centre replacing the injured Christy Grobelaar from the squad that won the Dubai tournament last weekend. Let's listen to the coach.
Tiaan is a very versatile player. I think we get more than one position with Tiaan. He covers hooker, primarily hooker, and then at loose head as well. Very similar to Ryan Oosthuizen, and so high work ethic. But Great Britain are quality side, and they're very direct. They play completely different to the teams that we played last week. So their strengths are also their kick-off. So we'll make adjustments and make sure that we're ready just for them.
That match against Great Britain kicks off tomorrow at 10 to 11 in the morning. More rugby, the Lions confident that the way they approach touring Europe in the United Rugby Championship will make them more of a threat when they meet the French side, Perpignan, in the Challenge Cup on Sunday. Loose forward JC Pretorius points out the depth in the Lions team.
We had a chat about it with the previous season. We didn't have that much depth in the squad. And I think, honestly, the squad depth is really good. There's a fine-tune of competition in the squad that makes everyone want to perform every single weekend. So, yeah, we're looking forward for this opportunity.
Soccer news. Kaizer Chiefs have stripped their goalkeeper Itumeleng Kune of the club captaincy and ordered him to stay away from the first team and seek professional help for his reported issues with alcohol. The 36-year-old shot stopper was recently charged by the club after he reportedly arrived to training under the influence. And finally, golf. Robin Williams holds a one-shot lead following the opening round of the Alfred Dunhill Championship yesterday. The South African carded a 7-under par round of 65. Jaden Shaper, a runner-up at Leopards Creek Country Club 3 years ago, shares second place with Spaniard Manuel Elvira on 6 under. Former 4-time champion Charles Schwartzel is in joint 10th place on 4 under, while Dean Burmester, the winner of the Joburg Open and the South African Open Championship in the last 2 weeks, is a further shot off the pace in a share of 22nd. That's a wrap of your Sport on Sunrise. We'll bring you more headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. Good morning. You with SFM. In the next half hour, we'll talk about how we manage our spies. It's stage 3 now, stage 4 later, but the outlook does change on a Friday at 7:30.
And in the headlines, over 250 Bakubung platinum mine workers in the northwest are still staging a sit-in underground over wages and retrenchments at the mine. The disgruntled miners are refusing to resurface until their demands are met. In other news, police in Polokwane in Limpopo say they are investigating some drivers of minibus taxis bearing Limpopo and Gauteng registration numbers. This follows the interception of 10 minibus taxis transporting about 133 suspected victims of human trafficking from Zimbabwe. The victims include adults and unaccompanied children. And it has emerged that Britain paid a further $125 million, which is nearly 2.4 billion rand to Rwanda this year. The payment was part of a deal to send more asylum seekers to Rwanda. More details on these and other stories at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. There are multiple trucks that are broken down between Benoni and Craft Road this morning on the N12. There's one around Rondebolt Road causing a big backlog, and then there's a couple broken down around the Craft Road exit. So from just after Tom Jones, you sit right through to that Craft Road exit. It's probably the heaviest highway around Joburg side this morning. N1, Old Joburg Road to New Road, fairly slow, not as bad as it can be, but it is busy and sluggish. Then one in Pretoria looking fine. In fact, Pretoria traffic has just fallen off the charts, off the cliff this week. There's been a very, very easy run around the Greater Tralee area. One or two delays, the Mopani Highway, you won't be beating that, and Solomon Mshlanga around the Silver Lakes area. But apart from that, it looks pretty good in Pretoria. Ashburton through Cato Ridge on the N3, no disruption through the roadworks this morning. Another crash on Durban's N2 South between Gateway and Kwamashu. I saw the figures for the crash scenes for about half of the year on that section between Kwamashu and Mshloti. It's amazing how many collisions there are on a daily basis. Very few collisions in that area outside of the work zone, but once you get into the work zone, it is crash galore. N2 both ways towards Spaghetti Junction's heavy, particularly the N2 North, which is backed up from the M7 this morning. And Cape Town, a bit of load shedding around Epping, Valhalla Park, Bishop Lavis, Elsie's River. So that's all slow on multiple routes through there. And load shedding in Belleville causing quite a big delay on Mike Pinar coming off the N1 or through from Yip de Jager. Queues down towards Tini Mayer and Four Trekker Road. And a truck overturning between Colchester and Nanaga on the N2. That truck blocking the road. You'll be able to get past, but with a bit of a wait, one sort of direction at a time. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Ray Machlaka, good morning. Asian markets, US markets, how are they looking?
Well, both markets are mostly down. It is Japan's market that is recording big losses. Japan's central bank hinted that it eventually plans to begin tightening monetary policy. This means that the central bank might start increasing interest rates. After keeping them low for many years, Japan's central bank is worried about inflation and would want to reduce it by increasing interest rates. So in Asian markets, Japan's Nikkei is down 1.8%. China's Shanghai Composite is up 0.4%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng is up 0.2%. US markets were mostly up yesterday, and before the US market officially opens later today, the futures market is down. Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P futures are each down 0.1%, and our market, the JSE, was down 0.8% yesterday. The shares of mining companies were mostly down.
And then the situation with the post office. I mean, we've been hearing about the 6,000 retrenchments forever. It looks like that's coming closer, though.
Yeah, the post office will now move to cut 6,000 jobs to reduce company costs. The post office will also close 600 branches across the country, and the state-owned entity might also receive a government bailout worth 3.8 billion rand to fund its operations. This is all set to happen because creditors of the post office have voted in favor of a business rescue plan for the company. So over the next 2 to 5 years, the rescue plan will be implemented. And Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is yet to approve a bailout request for the post office.
And then Tongaat Hewlett, their business rescue vote by creditors is set for today. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plans out. There could be quite a lot of movement in that group soon.
Yeah, well, that vote is not will not happen today. Creditors of Tongaat Hewlett were meant to vote today to choose a buyer for the company. Like the post office, Tongaat is in business rescue. A Mozambican firm called RGS and a consortium called Vision are both competing to buy Tongaat. However, RCL Foods and the South African Sugar Association applied for an interdict at the High Court in Durban to stop the vote by creditors from happening today. They argue that Tongaat owes billions of rands in outstanding sugar levies. The court has now postponed the interdict applications to next week, Wednesday, so the vote by Tongaat creditors cannot happen today, pending those court applications for an interdict.
Ray Machlaka, thanks very much indeed. Ray, of course, back on Monday. More business news through the day here on SAFM.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, good to hear from you this morning. All sorts of things going on. Lebo on the line from Mahikeng. Lebo, hi. The NHI going through the National Council of Provinces this week. How do you see it, Lebo?
Good morning, Stephen. Grootes at SAFM Sunrise and listeners. Thank you for taking me the call. I want to comment about the NHI. Stephen, where is the money came from, the budget? Because Finance Minister told us there is no money. He's going to cut the budget from health, education, and home affairs. There is no money. And he further say, if you don't cut the budget, by next year's March, there will no salary payment.
So you're saying that on the one side, people are cutting budgets, and on the other side, there's got to be money for the NHI.
Approved. What was the reason for the approval? Because when I read on internet, the funder for NHI is that they are going to fund it from the general tax. It's not a private entity as such. They are going to take it as revenue.
Yeah, Lebo, I don't know. I mean, I find it very interesting. My own sense is that the NHI probably won't come before the elections because I think there'll be court challenges to it.
It's a challenge because really, Stephen, it's a challenge. Because here at the Mulema municipality, you can't even find a panado or a cough mixture at the clinics.
Wow.
Or hospitals are that we are having only 2 hospitals, Bupelong and Victoria Hospital, which is a medical aid hospital. They could have upgraded the hospital and the clinic before they implement and approve the NHI.
Yeah, no, sure. All right, Lebo and Mahikeng, thank you. Do appreciate it. Zwelaka and Mangung, Zwelaka, hi. The president having that Imbizo in Welkom yesterday. He's been in the Free State. How do you see his promises?
Yeah, you see that the man was in first and foremost, the morning and to fellow viewers, Stephen. First and foremost, we must look into this trend. The president has been doing these installments over the period of a year and a half now. It's not the second year. But can we say, is there any decisive victory to this? Is there any barometer that we can say we have tested this district development medals, the indices and stuff? But for me, I can safely tell you that this is the president selling a talk, and a cheap talk for that matter, because he goes there, he pretends to be listening to the crisis, community crisis, and only for them to do nothing. And for them to go there, take pictures, and act as if they are making any meaningful intervention. If you recall that the very same tours or installments, President came with here in Mangaung. He brought some here, and as a result of that DDM, the municipality was placed under administration. And even if you to go to cabinet minutes, thereafter they have placed the municipality under intervention, you cannot even see them talking to that again, to show that they only came for cheap talk and pretended to be working something for us.
So you say nothing's changing, is that your point?
I'm literally telling you that, Stephen. If you come to Mangaung, look at the, and I was telling this to one of the SABC journalists here in Mangaung, Apumele, to say, it is very unfortunate that you as SABC in Mangaung have few resources to kind of follow this news. Because I've learned that Mangaung SABC has only one camera, and they have to search themselves across the Free State. So you would find it difficult, because if they were able to kind of go and look into these things, then you'll realize that there is a mess in Mangaung.
Yeah.
And
All right.
that mess is created by the Britain intervention.
All right, so Lakap, thanks very much indeed on the line from Mangaung. Very, very frustrated there. I think many people are by the situation in Mangaung, which, like other places, has become very difficult over the years. 19 minutes to 8.
Eintracht Frankfurt plans to have things their way when they clash with the giants of German football Bayern München. They believe a win is more exciting on home ground, while the Bavarians are gunning for strictly 3 points to settle at the top of the table.
This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be.
Catch the superb contest between Eintracht Frankfurt and Bayern München on Saturday 9 December at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
Hashtag We Love It Here.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Join us on Afternoon Express Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. As being alone this festive season is what clinical psychologist Lee Mbata is here to help us with. Gynecologist Sherry Lee Franks has tips to keep your digestive and urinary tract healthy. Plus, get genius gifting and fashion ideas on Afternoon Express Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m. only on S3.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
SAFM 104 to 107. Nationwide.
17 minutes now to 8 the time. Well, let's check in on some of what's been happening in KwaZulu-Natal after the floods last year. You may remember around the Easter period how many people were left homeless as a result, and the provincial government has been promising that it will help everybody who lost their accommodation to get permanent accommodation. The KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Human Settlements and Public Works is Sipho Nkosi. MEC, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning to you, Steve, and your listeners.
We had many people being displaced by the floods last year. How much progress are you making in making sure they get permanent accommodation?
And it's a lot of them. Close to 4,000 families got affected. We have reported before that we have accessed the 13 land parcels where we are intending to build them houses permanently there. And we want to indicate that on Wednesday, I took the opportunity in the rainy day of going to some of the sites. I visited 6 land parcels that we spoke about earlier on, where we are going to build for our own people. And then I am remaining with 4 more, because I believe now that 10 of the land parcels will be enough to build for all the victims of the floods of April 2022. So I'm quite happy that the place is now there, and I physically visited it. Now I know that the processes of making sure that we do everything will be completed by February. Then immediately when the new financial year begins, we should have started building. But in the reservoir site, where we are going to build the 80 homes, and then there we are likely to start in January next year. So this is what progress that we have.
Are you able to make sure that the quality of the structures is right, that the actual the buildings that are going to be built, the homes, are going to be of proper quality? We're not going to have collapsing homes here.
I know that's what won't happen. And the structures that we are building in KwaZulu-Natal, I don't remember anyone that collapsed, even in the deep rural areas and all the stuff. That is what I can vouch for now.
And let me see if I may. I think you'll know the story around Sandile. Sandile lives in Pietermaritzburg. He's phoned us a couple of times. He can't see. He's blind. He's unsighted. And he lives actually in a mud house that then collapsed. Part of it collapsed during some of the heavy rains they had in Pietermaritzburg a little while ago. And he's desperate for accommodation. He has been promised that people will get in touch and help him. Have you been in touch with him? Do you know if your department is able to help him properly?
Oh, yes. When he raised the case in the interview with you, Steve, I contacted the regional director, who is now the acting chief director, on the very same day after I finished with your interview. And then I indicated to them that this is the case. I wanted them to go and look for it. And this is what developed in that case. One, disaster has been taken over by the National Department of Human Settlements, and then it is their responsibility to deal with that case. And then what progress that we have received after following up with the National Department of Human Settlements is that they have commissioned the HDA to build the house for Sandile. And really, it is very, very unfortunate that our people live in mud houses, and when rainy seasons come and those structures collapse, and we thank God that Sandile and his family are still alive after the collapse of that house. So HDA has been commissioned by the National Department of Human Settlement to build for him.
Okay, I understand that makes it difficult for you because you're the provincial MEC. This is now a national thing. He did phone us last week because he's been keeping us up to date with this. And he did tell us that last week when he spoke to us there'd been no construction. Is there any way you can, I don't know, send them a WhatsApp or something to move them along a little bit?
I also spoke to the acting chief director while he was still the regional director there, that I would want him to keep on updating Sandile. I will check after this meeting as to whether Mr. Makakula has been doing so, but I trust him. He should have been doing so. If he hasn't done so, and then he will have to account, because we serve the people and we must keep them updated.
MEC, I appreciate the time, and I know it's just one case, but I think it's an important case. Thank you very much indeed. Sipho Keke Nkosi is the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Human Settlements and Public Works. Sandile, I do hope that you are hearing some progress in all of this, and I remember when all of this started, just realizing how important this was, how important it was to you. So let's hope that something is done on that case. We'll take your calls this morning, 086 000 2032. It's 12 minutes now to 8 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A fairly quiet Tshwane region. It has been for a few days now, although if you're in on the R80, the Mopoli Highway, TMPD there, just down by Eski and Pathleli, so an extra way to get through. A bit of traffic on Linwood Road. Linwood undergoing load shedding probably for about another 10 minutes or so. Pretoria bound stays slow. And some stationary trucks coming out of Benoni through to Joburg. The big one now stuck just before Rondebolt Road, and that's causing a pushback beyond Atlas Road. N3 north up to Van Buren stays heavy, coming through from Germiston and the Alberton area. Durban, another crash on the N2 this morning in the roadwork section there between Umhlanga and Kumashu, so southbound just being held up. The number of collisions inside that work zone, basically between Kumashu and Umhloti, is astronomical. I've seen some reports compiled by respondents saying that the overwhelming cause of these collisions is negligence. So just drive carefully, please. A lot of them, of course, are rear-ending crash scenes in the lane closure section. Durban staying that side, the N2 north between the M7 and the M13 work. That is heavy again. Cape Town, no. Just a little bit quieter this morning around the Cape. The N1 inbound to Sable Road's busy. Mike Pinar coming off the N1, Yiptiaga down towards Tinnymeyer and Voortrekker, being held by some load shedding in the Belleville area. That's also about to rip up or end up at least. And a reminder of the overturned truck between Colchester and Nanaga. Big truck overturning on the N2. It's blocking the road. You can get past just using a sort of gravel shoulder, but there will be a delay as motorists sort of wait for one side to pass and then the other side can go. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Sikukune United target a win in their own backyard against Stade Malien FC. Meanwhile, the Malian side refused to travel back home empty-handed. This is the CAF Confederation Cup Group D clash. Catch Zikukune United versus Stade Malien FC on Sunday 10 December at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Beyond the headline on SAFM.
So what sort of interventions should we be seeing?
Crime is usually linked in poorer communities to poverty. Not a direct correlation, but in the absence of having jobs, in the absence of having good income, etc., people tend to get frustrated, and I think some of that frustration, boredom, anger, etc., plays itself out in criminal activities.
Professor Nirmala Gopal, who is a criminologist.
Beyond the headline with Aldrin Sampear on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
The 17th annual Chief Albert Luthuli Memorial Lecture will be delivered by the former University of Cape Town Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Thandabantu Nklapo, on Saturday, the 9th of December 2023 at 11:30 a.m. and streamed live on the Luthuli Museum and UKZN Facebook and YouTube platforms. The theme for this year's lecture will be Customary Law and the SA Legal System, a role for the courts, the legislature and civil society. The annual Luthuli Memorial Lecture is a partnership event between the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, the Luthuli Museum, the Luthuli Foundation and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. For more information, please contact Zintle Nyembe on 032 559 6824 or email profficer@luthulimuseum.org.za or visit www.luthulimuseum.co.za or contact Pam Adams on adamsp@ukzn.ac.za.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Sipo's on the line from Polokwane about Mavuso Mzamang. Sipo, hi, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Yes, I was listening to your interview with that ANC politician, and I think the Integrity Commission of the ANC was set up to target certain politicians, like we've seen. I think Ace was one of the targets, depending on which faction you are on. I mean, people who were implicated, like Gwede Mantashe, Zizi Kodwa, nothing happened to them. And we could see how swift they were to watch Ace.
But Ace tried to. Ace was kicked out not because of what he did with the with the alleged corruption against him, although that's important. It was because he tried to suspend the president.
Yeah, but remember that case I was not clued up about. But remember, he was held in the Integrity Commission for what he did in the Free State.
Well, yeah, but I mean that was important what he did in the Free State.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying they shouldn't have called it.
Okay,
but
right.
What I'm saying is there seems to be double standards. Like that they are targeting certain individuals. Why was it not called for his donations of the it AOE or what?
Yeah. So Mantashe went voluntarily to the Integrity Commission. I don't know what the outcome was. I think Zizi Kodwa didn't go, and Zizi Kodwa, as among many others, Nomvula Mokunyani also didn't go. I understand.
Yes. And then also when it comes to Zondo as well, there seems to be double standards, because we heard from people like Brian Molefe implementing Glencoe, and Chief Justice Zondo didn't do anything about that.
Well, it depends. It depends on the quality of the evidence, Sipo. You can't just make claims.
Yeah, well, are you saying the quality of what Brian said doesn't hold water?
Well,
because
the commission decided that, not me.
Exactly. So, I mean, that thing was made public for us to see. And then when I heard Brian Molefe, for me, what he said about Glencoe, certainly had prima facie evidence that there was something wrong with Glencoe, and we could see even internationally what Glencoe was made to pay, I think, in the American industry.
No,
yes.
sure.
then also.
All right, Sipho, I have let you speak, I'm afraid. So, I mean, I appreciate what you say about Glencore. I think you're right. I mean, if you look at their international track record, it would be bizarre to think there was no corruption. So, but I am going to move on because I have let you speak. Richard and Mahakeng, hi. You want to talk about Mavuso Mzamang?
Yeah.
Richard.
Yes, good morning, my brother.
Good morning. Go for it.
Yeah, about Richard Msimang, I think it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that when the truth came out for these criminals of the ANC, Mandela chased Holomisa away.
Mm.
And there has been corruption on an ongoing basis. For Msimang to resign now, I mean, these guys have resolved that they are unrepentant devils.
Sure, Richard. Yeah.
They are going to hell.
Okay. I'll leave that there. That very strong language. But and you know, Richard, you have a right to sort of express yourself. But sure, very strong. Wow, very strong language this morning. 4 minutes to 8.
Agenda setting conversations of the day.
Well, there's a process going through Parliament. It's the General Intelligence Law Amendment Bill that basically will regulate how state securities work. But a group of organizations say there'll be very serious consequences if the bill is not changed. Heidi Swart is a research coordinator for the group IntelWatch. They look at intelligence agencies here and around the world. Heidi, good morning. What do you believe is wrong with the bill?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. Well, a number of issues. The bill, for one, allows for security vetting of basically anyone. It says any person or institution of national security interest. That's the one aspect. The other thing is that it also allows for mass interception of our communications with very little meaningful oversight. Then the other thing is we have learned from the Zondo Commission as well as from a 2018 high-level review panel into the State Security Agency that there are a number of problems within that agency, and that includes a lack of oversight, that includes mismanagement of millions of rands of secret funding. And what we were hoping was that this bill would give our oversight bodies, and particularly the Inspector General of Intelligence, more teeth so that they could hold the agency to account. And we were also hoping that something would be done about the Secret Service accounts, which are basically bottomless pits of money that always get qualified audits year after year.
Part of it is around vetting. From what I can see, it would seem that they would be allowed to almost vet anybody. They would be allowed to, for example, come to the SABC, say, you're a national key point, and so we're going to vet everyone at the SABC. I don't want to be vetted.
No, you definitely don't want to be vetted. Vetting is an extremely invasive process. It's originally and normally everywhere around the world, really in democracies, meant to assess if someone can actually be trusted with secret state information and sensitive state systems, so that they want to check if you are, for instance, perhaps in financial trouble, because then perhaps you can be bribed, or if you have a record of indiscretions, etc. So they take a really deep look at your personal life. They can even look at your financial records, your health records, and they can also actually even intercept your communication. So it's very invasive, and it has a very specific purpose, and that is, again, to make sure that you can be trusted in your position of working for or with the government. But what they want to do with it now is they want to say, okay, we suspect that you might be trouble for us, so we're going to investigate you using this vetting process before we have any sort of criminal case, or before we have any real, evidence, or a case number, anything like that. Nothing concrete. We've just decided on our own terms that we're going to vet you, and there's not much then that you as an entity can supposedly do, whether you're a person or an organization.
Thank you very much indeed. Heidi Swart is the research coordinator for Intel Watch, a non-profit organisation that tries to hold intelligence services around the world to account. Interesting to see how these debates develop. As you know, all sorts of issues within the State Security Agency over the years. You with SAFM leading the conversation. It's 8 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Top stories this hour. More than 250 mine workers stage is sit-in underground and another group of suspected human trafficking victims intercepted. Good morning. Over 250 Bakubung platinum mine workers in Northwest are still staging a sit-in underground over wages and retrenchments at the mine. The disgruntled miners are refusing to resurface until their demands are met. NUM's Regional Secretary Jeffrey Mwache says the mine is Chinese-owned and its management does not respect workers' rights.
Of the over 250 workers who are underground, yesterday we managed to bring to surface almost 24 of those who are on chronic medication. And Bagu is Chinese-owned, and the Chinese are not respecting the labor laws of this country. There's a scheduled meeting with management at 8 o'clock. Now, to see how disrespectful they are, they don't even come to the operation. We're going to have a meeting via virtual platform.
Meanwhile, police say 2 bodies of suspected illegal gold miners have been found at Eersteling Farm outside Polokwane in Limpopo. They have arrested another suspected illegal miner who is believed to be a foreign national. Preliminary investigations indicate that the deceased might have suffocated underground. Fellow suspected illegal miners apparently brought their bodies to the surface. The arrested suspect will face various charges when he appears in court. Police in Polokwane in Limpopo say they are investigating some drivers of minibus taxis bearing Limpopo and Gauteng registration numbers. This follows the interception of 10 minibus taxis transporting about 133 suspected victims of human trafficking from Zimbabwe. The victims include adults and unaccompanied children. Last week, the Border Management Authority announced that it had intercepted 42 buses carrying unaccompanied children from Zimbabwe at the Bay Bridge border post in Musina. The police spokesperson, Hlulani Mashaba.
We still need to establish where the drivers are coming from, but we have noted that the taxis that are outside the parking here by Polokwane Police Station, their registration numbers are that of L, which means they are from Limpopo, some of them, and others are from Gauteng.
And it has emerged that Britain paid a further $125 million, which is nearly 2.4 billion rand, to Rwanda this year. The payment was part of a deal to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda. This was in addition to $175 million, or more than 3.2 billion rand, which government in London had previously made public. No one has so far been sent to Rwanda under the agreement. Britain's main opposition Labour Party has accused the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of wasting taxpayers' money. And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says there's a gap between what Israel promised to do to protect civilians during its renewed military offensive in Gaza and what is happening on the ground. Blinken was speaking at a news conference in Washington.
It remains imperative that Israel put a premium on civilian protection, not only having these safe areas, but making sure that the communications are such that people know where they can go, when they can go there safely, making sure that the areas that they go to are fully resourced and supplied with food, medicine, water. Also making sure that in areas that are clearly out of the conflict zone, that they remain so.
Recapping our top story this hour, over 250 Bakubung platinum mine workers in Northwest are still staging a sit-in underground over wages and retrenchments at the mine. I'll be back with the headlines at the bottom of the hour. For SFM News, I'm Nomalizo Mandela.
Norma Liesel, thank you very much indeed. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out, is balancing your income statement harder than hitting a winning run in a high-stakes cricket match. Try Outsurance for a game-changing strategy against the rising cost of living. If they can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. That's a monthly saving on your current premium or 500 Rand cash. Claim free and with the same insurer for 3 years, ask for 1,500 Rand instead. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. That's out to 38462. Outsurance is the licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. Injury setback for the Springbok women ahead of the Cape Town Sevens tomorrow. And in golf news, John Rahm confirms the switch to Live Golf. Let's find out more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very slow coming out of Benoni through Boksburg this morning towards Joburg Stationary Truck. There's only one of them left, but this one is just before you get to Rondebolt Road, so a little bit sluggish there. The N3 North being held by a breakdown at Van Buren, so delays coming up from Germiston. Another crash scene just after that traffic on the N3 up by the London Road exit, so moving through Edenvale towards Limborough Park stays busy as well. Over in Durban, the N2 is the standout again this morning. Still very heavy getting up through Spaghetti Junction towards the M13 work zone. The M13 both ways under quite a bit of pressure as well, particularly in from Westfield through that restricted N2 bridge and down in towards the Sherwood area. Truck overturning, blocking the N2 Eastern Cape between Colchester and Nanaga. There would be a way to get through there. Cape Town, after some load shedding this morning, Mike Pinar going south through Belleville towards Tinnie remains busy, and load shedding moving into a really busy commuting area now. Tableview, Montague Gardens, Boortesak area, Century City, Maitland and Milnerton, all of those areas offline until 10 a.m. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
7 after 8, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Well, Friday morning, the last working Friday of the year. I presume that you've made some plans for the rest of the year. You can tell us your plans, by the way, if you like, from 8:30, your story of the week. What are you going to be doing over the holiday period? Where will you be going? Why will you be going there? Be good to hear from you about what you're actually doing. It could just be quite nice to get a sense of, you know, are you going home? Are you going on holiday? Are you whatever it is that you're doing over the sort of festive period, the holiday period? Really good to hear from you. You may just be resting, actually. And I know some people, of course, will be working. So we'll take your call, 086 000 2032. You can book your spot now. We'll be talking about the way that people are treated at clinics. The TAC's been doing a big survey on that. We'll look at that in the next little while. And the value of soil. I really do mean the stuff that plants grow in, that stuff, soil. We'll be talking about that in a while as well. Good morning.
Rand Water is concerned about the significant increase of water consumption in its areas of supply. The increase in water consumption is putting severe strain on Rand Water's distribution network. To save water, please do not wash your cars with hose pipes. Use buckets. Water your garden with sprinklers between sunset and sunrise. Do not wash your pavements with hose pipes. Use brooms. Repair your leaking taps. Cover your swimming pools to avoid quick evaporation. Shower instead of bathing in a tub.
This message is sponsored by Rand Water in partnership with City of Joburg, City of Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane.
Polokwane City want to test if Kaizer Chiefs can handle the Limpopo heat. Their plan is to get a comfortable position in the top half, but the Kosi Nation is in a good mood to collect maximum points away from home. Rise and Shine versus Rise Kosi Rise. This is the DSTV Premiership. Polokwane City versus Kaizer Chiefs on Saturday 9 December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on their SABC bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide its governance, to amend the ICASA Act of 2000 and the Electronic Communications Act of 2005. For more information, contact the Portfolio Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies by emailing sabcbill@parliament.gov.za, directed to Hanjiera Sali.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
Well, good to hear from you this morning. There's been a big survey by the Treatment Action Campaign and Ritsidze to look at the state of clinics around the country. They went to 8 provinces, 400 public healthcare facilities. We often hear of people who phone in and they tell us that, we have to wait for so long, or I got nothing. And there have been some terrible stories of how people have been treated at clinics, and clinics are so important. They really are the best way to sort of understand, in a way, what's happening in our healthcare system. They're the place that you go to first. Anele Yawe is the General Secretary of the Treatment Action Campaign. Anele, good morning.
Good morning to you, Steve, and good morning to the listeners at home.
So you run this monitoring campaign. You speak to people to find out what is happening at clinics. I mean, one of your findings is that most clinics don't actually have enough staff. In other words, around 3/4 of them just don't have enough people to help patients.
Yes, Stephen. So we are monitoring, as you have said, 400 clinics in 8 provinces that are situated in 28 districts of South Africa. What we can say, Stephen, is that there are those clinics that are doing well in some areas, and there are those that are not doing well. One of the problems is the long waiting time, where people have to wake up early in the morning and leave the same clinic around 3 or 4, and at times without them being given adequate treatment they need. And then the other issue is when people are missing the appointment dates, and when they go to the clinic the following day to collect medicines, they are made to stand right at the back of the queue so that they can be served last, that is not a standard operating procedure of the department. And also you will see that one person relocates from this area to the other. Upon arriving on the other side, when they go to clinic, they are being requested to produce transfer letters. And if they don't have transfer letters, those people are not provided any services, which is not a standard operating procedure of the department. But the other issue is around the missing patient files, where people, when they go to clinics, they find out that their files are missing. And when a file of a patient is missing, it therefore means the medical record of that individual is also missing. Also, there are issues around staff attitude, where some of the nurses in our clinics, they are ill-treating our people, especially people living with HIV and key populations.
We've had these problems consistently for a very long time. Is there just a lack of resources? And we know there's sort of austerity by the National Treasury. They might call it something else. But, is that part of the problem? There's just not enough money for clinics?
Not really. Yes, there is a financial issue, but also, like, for instance, it has nothing to do with money. When someone has missed an appointment, go to a clinic, and you say to that person, they must go right at the back of the queue. It has nothing to do with money, to stigmatize, to discriminate people, to shout at people inside those clinics. It has something to do with the attitude of mind of our healthcare workers, who needs to be sensitized to respect the constitutional rights of the citizens as well as the patient's rights charter. But on the other hand, we have been engaging with authorities at district level, at provincial level, and at national level. And we can safely say, at least now we can see there is a bit of a move from the side of the government to try and intervene in these areas. And I can safely say most of the people who came forward to us and reported about the ill treatment which they experience in those facilities, we're taking them back to the facility manager to try and make sure that this person is getting the services that they were denied. And if we do not get a joy, it is only then that we escalate problems to the higher level. But issues of budget cuts, we also had a meeting last week in Durban with the Minister of Health, where we called upon the minister to work with us to make sure that we push back the move by the finance minister or the treasury to cut about 1 billion from the health budget. And also we propose that the cabinet must take a decision of ring fencing the HIV and conditional grant so that it is not used on any other thing, but it is used for what it is meant for.
One of the big things that clinics do is that people go there to get their antiretroviral drugs. That may be almost the most important thing they do, depending. And for a lot of people, you're supposed to get them for a specific time, sort of 3 to 6 months, and that means you don't have to keep going back. Is that happening? Are clinics actually giving people the number of ARV pills they're supposed to give them?
There are those clinics which have started to implement the multi-month dispensing of medication, like most of them around Mpumalanga, KZN, and few in Gauteng and some in other provinces. But the huge number of clinics have not yet started implementing the multi-month dispensing of medication. People are given 1 month and they are compelled to frequent these facilities unnecessarily. So.
One of the big things is the way that people are treated, and you've already referred to it, but I mean, you put it under the category of unfriendly and uncaring healthcare workers. And let me just be clear, Anele, I've never worked as a nurse, and I know you need a lot of patience to be a nurse. Very difficult. Why do you think this is such a problem? I mean, why do you think that so many people find that they're actually just, that nurses are not treating them properly and with respect? And this has been a big problem in our healthcare sector for a long time. And I know it's difficult to be a nurse, but it seems that there's something happening there that maybe we need to deal with. I don't know how we would fix it.
In the main, we have a shortage of human resource for health. Our clinics, most of them are understaffed, and these nurses are working under a lot of pressure because they are short-staffed. But also it has something to do with leadership in the institution, as well as making sure that you keep on sensitizing nurses in order for the nurses to respect the constitutional rights of the people.
So it's really about, people having to work too hard, not enough nurses to help them. I mean, that would make me grumpy too. And that's what happens, right? It happens all the time. If there's enough nurses, the attitudes would change too.
Yes, I'm sure if there is enough nurses in our health establishments, the attitude will change, but also they will begin to be fast in terms of serving people so that people are not spending more than 3 hours in those facilities, because according to what we see in the boards, it is said that if you enter a clinic, you will not spend more than 2 to 3 hours. But most of the times, people are spending six hours there. And also, the other thing, it has something to do with nurses taking longer breaks like tea time and your lunch, and at times you find out that in some clinics after 2 o'clock they do not admit to any other incoming person, yet a clinic is closed at 4 or at 5, and then you begin to ask yourself, what are they doing in that 2 to 3 hours of not doing anything?
Anele Yawe, thank you, the General Secretary of the Treatment Action Campaign. Do appreciate the time. I wonder what experience you've had at nurses around the country. 19 after 8.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand. It's for our clever who turn 5-liter bottles into workout dumbbells. And for the slim oaks who bring a home-cooked scuff team to work every day. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand Station. Gautrain, for people on the move. Mamelodi Sundowns and Egyptian outfit Pyramids FC have collected maximum points in their Group A opening matches. They now tackle each other in search of victory. Masandawana want to ensure their visitors walk away without any joy, but Pyramids FC are confident they will upset the 2016 champs. This is the CAF Champions League. Grootgop battles it out with East Cairo. Experience the African flavor of the beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Pyramids FC on Sunday 10 December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
Have you ever actually gone to a piece of ground or any kind of place with plants and put your hands in the soil and lifted the soil up and looked at it and really looked at what you're holding? Get your hands in the dirt and actually feel what that soil is. Well, if you did, you'd probably see why soil is so important. Seke Nkarimeng is a Safe Soil Ambassador and volunteer at the Isha Foundation. He was celebrating World Soil Day this week. Seke, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Grootes. How are you?
I'm well. Please call me Stephen. Why is soil important? Why is it so important?
Well, soil is extremely important because soil is the basis of our bodies and is the basis of our life, because everything, all the food we eat, which makes up who we are, comes from soil. 95% of all the things which we eat comes directly from the soil. So it is important from the beginning, but it's so important in the current time because of the situation which we found ourselves, which potentially we're looking at a soil extinctions in the next few years.
Why is soil under threat so much? What's leading to this? Is it, climate change? Obviously, everyone talks about climate change. Is that it? Is it something else? Are there other things that we can avoid?
Climate change is part of it, but obviously population growth since. If you can assume that in the first century, where the people of the world were like 1 billion, and now we're sitting at 8 to 9 billion people globally. So as the populations grow, we tend to sort of obviously use more food. Agriculture has contributed to that. When you plow, for instance, and leave the soil exposed to the sun, it sort of kill all the organisms, which is what makes up a healthy, good soils. And then it turned out to sand. And also, as we build more cities, urbanizations, and this, we tend to take away the soil which we need to use. And then, obviously, the climate change being the last one.
Are there ways to regenerate soil or create more soil? Are there ways to, maybe with a bit of sand, a bit of this, a bit of that, the right planting patterns, things like that? Can you actually regenerate soil?
Soil, yes, you can regenerate. It can also regenerate itself, but unfortunately, it takes 150 years, which we don't have, if it has to generate itself. That's why we from the Safe Soil movement and also the Conscious Planet, we're saying that the only way to redo this is if people turn around the corner and do something. And what is it that we can do? What we can do is to make sure that we rebuild back the organisms into the soil, into the sand. Rebuilding the organisms means we need the organic matter, which comes from trees, leaves, and everything, and also from the dead animal matter. If we put it back into the soil, then it recycles itself again as the organisms which needs to come. So trees is important that we keep soil under shade and under cover. But individually as people, we also saying because of the catastrophe which we are looking at the moment, it's something which needs a coordinated effort. For instance, all the governments in the world have got a target and says, well, we want to get youth unemployment below 10%, below 5%. We also need to create sort of a policy like that and say, how much of the organic content we need in the soil. Organic content in the soil, the studies which have been done by United Nations shows that a living soil has to have a minimum of between 3 to 6% organic content in the soil. Currently in Africa, for instance, the average organic content is 0.5%. Myself, when I was doing the walk, I met a lot of farmers, and the highest farmer, and he's usually planting trees and everything else, said to me his organic content is sitting at 1.5%. So we are way below what we call a living soil, and we need to do something. We need to have a policy from government saying, let's do something about this organic content, because it's important, one, for the food which we eat. It's going to become more healthy and nutritious, which will help us reduce many of the diseases which which have come to us. Again, secondly, it will make sure that obviously we can have a soil and food for a lot of the people around. It will help with city migrations. There's a lot of forced migration globally, and this is happening because of, again, poor soils where people are. And thirdly, it will help with this organic content. You can also call it the carbon. The carbon which is in the air, if you put it back into the soil, it then work its magic by creating more life, because these are the sugars which this organism needs to be able to grow food and everything else. So it is very important that we keep the soil healthy for those various reasons.
Thanks very much indeed, Seke. Really appreciate it. Seke Nkarimeng is a Save Soil ambassador and a volunteer at the Isha Foundation. 27 minutes now after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. The Springbok Women's Sevens.
Yes, they were banking on home ground advantage, but now they're forced to make changes to their squad for this weekend's HSBC Sevens in Cape Town after Zintle Mpupa and Libby Janse van Rensburg both ruled out of action. Kemisetso Baloyi and Behandre Dolph will replace the injured duo. Renfred Dazel, the head coach of the Springbok Women's Sevens team, explains.
It's almost a flashback from what happened last year. We also lost 2 or 3 players after Dubai, and I think for us to get someone in like Kemi that had played before and Behandre Dolph that played a few test matches, almost a dozen test matches for the Springbok women, it's easy to slaughter in those that only had one training today with the squad, but we're more than happy because her capabilities and the skill set that she has can help us over the weekend.
The Springbok Women's Sevens team will line up against Canada, France and the USA in the pool stages tomorrow, while the Men's Sevens head coach Sandile Ngobo has named Tian Pretorius as the only new player in his squad for this weekend's Sevens tournament, with the former SA School Centre replacing the injured Christy Grobbelaar from the squad that won the Dubai tournament last weekend. The Blitzbok coach saying that the different pool opponents in Cape Town will, however, not change their strategy much.
Yeah, I think Tian is a very versatile player. I think we get more than one position with Tian. He covers hooker, primarily hooker, and then at loose head as well. Very similar to Ryan Oosthuizen, and so high work ethic, versatile skills. They can tackle, they're on the ball, and they're actually ballers.
The Blitzboks will take on Great Britain tomorrow at 10 to 11 in the morning, followed by USA at 2:15 in the afternoon, and in the evening, Ireland, that kick-off at 20 to 8. On to golf, and the reigning Masters champion, Jon Rahm, is making the jump to Live Golf. Rahm his announcement ended weeks of speculation that the player who had previously pledged his loyalty to the PGA Tour will sign for the Saudi-backed circuit. Live Golf issued a statement saying details for a team captained by Rahm in the coming season, which starts on the 2nd of February at the Live Golf Mayakoba in Mexico, will be released shortly. And finally, motorsport. Formula One's governing body shelved a probe of the F1 power couple of Toto and Susie Wolff, saying it was satisfied with existing compliance measures and was not investigating any individual. The FIA caused a stir this week when it announced it was looking into media speculation about a potential conflict of interest and the transfer of confidential information. While the governing body did not name any individual, Mercedes F1 and Susie Wolff responded with statements defending their team principal and his wife, who runs the all-female F1 Academy series. The F1 Academy is supported by all of the 10 F1 teams, and Susie Wolff reports directly to the Formula One Chief Executive, Stefano Domenicali. We'll have a wrap of more sport on SFM. That comes to you around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you very much indeed. What for you is the most important thing that happened this week? What is your story of the week? And what happened to you this week? Do you have a little story for us? What did you do? How did it happen? 086 000 2032. Good to hear from you. It's 8:30.
And in the headlines, the National Union of Mine Workers says 24 of the more than 200 mine workers staging a sit-in underground at the Bakubung Platinum Mine in the northwest have resurfaced. The sit-in, which started on Wednesday, is part of the workers' protest over issues related to wage increases and the retrenchment of more than 500 workers, including pregnant women. In other news, the Post Bank has given the assurance that the Social Security Agency's gold cards are not expiring at the end of this month. It says social grant beneficiaries will be able to use the cards beyond December. And the British Foreign Secretary has warned that the leaders of Russia and China will be the only people smiling if the US fails to send more aid to Ukraine. More details on these and other stories at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg's N3 running north remains heavy. There's a breakdown at Van Buren today, so you're just queuing up, coming up through that Ilanz interchange. If you're around from Alberton or from Germiston, you've got to get flight connections at the airport. It's pretty thick and pretty heavy, passing Cement Factory into Bedfordview area. The rest of the province looks okay. A reminder of the congestion you'll hit on the Eskia and Pathari option down towards Eskia this morning. That's still very busy. Pietermaritzburg to Durban, checks fine. No major problems there. The M2 running north is still slow through the M13 roadworks, and the M13 leaving Pinetown just still being held up with those roadworks at Paradise Valley. Big truck overturning between Colchester and Nanaga. You'll be able to get past that, but there will be a way to be sort of in the gravel verge one way at a time to pass that scene down in the Eastern Cape. Cape Town, bit of traffic pressure around Belleville this morning. Robert Sobukwe routing north through Belleville South is busy, and Mike Pinar coming down from Yiptiaga off the M1 highway. Big queues after some load shedding. Traffic under pressure right down through Four Trekker Road towards the Tinimaya Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's in those minds young and aflame, in the reach of those dare to reach, in the possibilities dancing just for you, in the eye and ear of a dream in fever. Yes, it's in hope, hope in light pulled near and sent afar. Yes, it's in hope, from us to you. SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
The massive evening to walk on the purple carpet has arrived. The queens of the beautiful game, coaches and administrators are recognized for their excellence on and off the pitch. Celebrating the sheroes of football. Experience the Hollywood Bet Super League Awards this Saturday, 9 December at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
What happened to you this week? Your story of the week. You know the number 086 000 2032. Let's start with Delani in eThekwini, Durban. Delani, hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning, SG. It's so exciting to listen to your show. It's really for the well-informed. It informs us. It's like a university. It educates us.
Thank you, Delani. That's very kind.
Thank you so much. Stephen, I've got two things that worries me. I'm not a political scientist, but I'm a citizen. I'm viewing these things and I'm looking at the future of our country. in next day to come, and also for the young ones. That is very important. So, even the type of criticism that is leveled against the state, I know other countries, other popular countries or other successful countries in the world, like your America, in most cases, their citizens, they are so much into their state in terms of supporting, giving kind of a system support and advancing, if I can put it that way. I don't know whether it's a regime change or it's an intelligent kind of an activity that is taking place, but I'm just viewing from the rural outskirts of Durban, Shane. But I am looking at this, Stephen, as a positive South African, as someone who has a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old that is still going to go to this country, that will contribute in the life of this country, who love to stay in this country, who don't want to live in this country. The kind of criticism. I mean, just for instance now, I'm hearing a guy criticizing the president of going and see people in the Free State. I think it's a very good initiative where you have a state president and the entire executive of government. I mean, it's only now that I can talk the minister, I can talk whatever I like. To face with the minister. Long time ago, these things were not happening. And yesterday there were a 95-year-old man. You heard him, Stephen. He said, Tatu Ramaphosa. I am looking for you get what I mean? And the president just on the spot. The president said to that man, he will instruct the Minister of Human Settlement
to give him a house before he dies.
To give her. Is it not that great? Can you not expect that? Those are faceless people, Stephen. Are not someone like you, Stephen, who's driving in the city of Johannesburg. Are people like me who's going here on barefoot, and I'm having an altercation with the president. Isn't that exciting?
So, Delani, it is exciting. I think it's very exciting. I think that the reason that you should hear the voice notes we get on the ANC, by the way, and we often don't play them because the language is just something that we can't use. I think that it's because, and I can't speak for anyone, right? But my own view, if I can put it that, based on what I hear from what people tell me when people like you, Delani, phone in, is that they feel their lives have got worse in the last 5 years. That's the difference. And you say that Americans, for example, don't talk down their country. Did you know that 72% of Americans think their country is moving in the wrong direction? That's a high number, hey?
Yes, I agree, SG.
Yeah.
I really agree. I'm talking about constructive. I don't know. I'm not an English.
No. But constructive criticism. No. That's the right phrase. I mean, you would be right. People are very. I think people are just angry. They're just angry.
What type of angry? Why are we angry?
Yeah.
Why are we angry? Because the kind of citizenry, if we are drifting away or there's some kind of an intelligent operator, I'll tell you something. A classical point, your radio station. And this criticism, I'm not your program manager or whatever. I don't know anything about that. But I believe that is tarnishing your brand, SAFM, somewhere, somehow. If I open to SAFM, I hear this castigation of ministers. I hear this disrespect and all of that. That is not the way we want to move. As a positive citizen, I'm not a strategist. But that's the way. Even these 300 political parties in this country. Tell me, Stevie, out of these Molanyana Kokwana political, how many followers that these people have?
No, I know.
And I'm telling you, I am not a political scientist, but that will, at the end, ultimately favors the very same ANC. And the ANC is going to win 24 elections. There is no contest at all. It's only criticism and also criticizing Stephen for nothing else. If Stephen is interacting with me and following up, then I just say Stephen is an ANC or whatever.
No, Delani. All right, Delani, thank you. I'm going to stop there because we've heard you for about 6 minutes, and it's important what you say. Just to say, people in the past have said the ANC will, the SABC will change its policy and sunshine journalism and remember some difficult times. And I would say, I mean, I can't speak for the SABC, but I would say, speaking only as Stephen Grootes, it would be wrong to go back there. And by the way, the SABC lost huge audiences when it did that. People, our job is not to censor people, and that really, especially this half hour, is what we do. Corelli in Randburg. Corelli, have I pronounced your name correctly? Good morning.
Good morning. It's Coralie.
Coralie,
actually.
sorry.
Yeah. Good morning. I was listening to a pharmacy webinar which was emphasizing the importance or the more use that could be made of pharmacy. And my maid currently goes to Clicks in Cosmo Mall to collect her chronic medicine. Now, every little town in South Africa has a pharmacy. I know this. I was a rep calling on them. If we could get the government to send the chronic medicine to those pharmacies and people could come in and pick them up on the allocated day at any time, it would take a huge impact off the clinics for a start. The other thing, please, why can we not use cell phone computer diagnosis? Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that, Coralie, yes, where you'd use a cell phone, and there are lots of different ways to do it. You can WhatsApp and things like that.
Yeah, so in Rwanda and Babylon, obviously the UK doctors complained and they made it right the final exams for doctors, and it did above average. They use it in Rwanda to diagnose people, and then all they have to do is go and pick up the medicine. Why can't we do this here? Because obviously it could be programmed to translate into the language of the person. And we're looking at community health workers based in little dorps and whatever, making sure people get their HIV, they take their contraception. These people could handle that diagnosis for the people in the community and take a huge risk of it. But NHI wants us all to come into the hospitals, to come into their clinics. How can they think out the box?
Sure. Coralie, thank you. You've given me a lot of food for thought, and I know there are quite a few people who want to talk about hospitals and clinics, so I'll put that to those people as well. Coralie in Randburg, thank you. And you're right, there are pharmacies everywhere. And in fact, Zelma was asking me while we were talking about it, if private pharmacies can't be used more. And maybe there are in some cases, but I think there is something we need to explore there. And I think we might even sort of speak a little bit to the Department of Health next week about this and give them a right of reply to what the TAC said. Coralie, thank you. Philemon in Springs, also on clinics. Hi, Philemon.
Yes, how are you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it.
Wonderful. I want to talk about this service delivery in terms of the clinics. One of the things that maybe we need to improve in this country is how we manage budget and in terms of the distribution of the budget in order to make sure that there is enough human resource. Because I can tell you, I work for the Ekurhuleni District Health, although I'm not speaking on behalf of the department, but as a person who's concerned and a citizen of this country. One of the things from 2010, we have been not not creating the post, for the clinics and for all the human resources in all categories. And that has created a huge gap. And the services has been keeping increasing, but we are not increasing the human resource. That's frustrating. I can tell you right now, because of the budget constraint, we've been told that all the support staff, they are not going to replace, not creating, with the shortage that we have. They are not even going to replace the people that are going on retirement, some they are resigning. Those people are not going to be replaced. Only the professional people, which they need those support staff, Then, and when you come to the clinics, then you need a clerk. The clerk is not there. The nurse needs a clerk in order to make sure that the queue flows.
Yeah.
Therefore, then there will be that delay. Therefore, I think the budget in terms of distributing, it's not correctly done.
Yeah.
Therefore, and they are not looking to the priorities in order to make sure that there is a service delivery. So that's a concern.
No, Philemon, thank you. Those are important points. And I mean, moving queues, there's a way to make a queue move, and proper signposts and all of that stuff. Philemon, thank you. I think I'm very concerned about P-posts not being filled. Manny in Cape Town, also hospitals and clinics. Hi, Manny.
Hello, good morning, Stephen. I hear a sound that is coming back to me.
Oh, you've got an echo. All right. I don't know. Let me just put you off and then put you back on. Manny, is the echo still there?
No, it's fine now.
All right, go for it.
Yes, it is there.
All right. Manny, what we'll do is we'll ask you to call back or we'll call you because I can see that that's going to be difficult for you. Faisal in Westdean. Faisal, hi. You actually want to talk about something in Denmark, Faisal?
Yes, correct. That's correct, Stephen. Stephen, I want to talk about the banning, Denmark's banning of the burning of the Quran in Denmark.
Oh, did they do that? I know there were big issues around it, so have they now banned it?
Yes, they actually banned it. I'm guided here by our great South African Constitution, and I would like to commend Denmark for the banning of the burning of the Quran. I think it's a form of hate speech that should never be allowed, actually, and it's long overdue for the banning, actually. But while I commend the Denmark for the banning, I'd like to put a word of caution that this banning shouldn't apply to any, for example, satirical or religious criticism, actually. And here, for example, like, we have Salman Rushdie's satanic verses or the lampooning of the Prophet Muhammad by Denmark. I think that is a form of speech that may be offensive to Muslims, but being offensive shouldn't restrict the freedom of speech.
Right.
And I want to draw the correlation of that particular freedom of speech to Tiger's comments here in South Africa, for example, where the cricket essay. And I support Wim Trindle's findings that Tiger has
he didn't break any of their codes of conduct, I think was the finding.
That's correct. Yes, yeah. And I support his freedom of expression, and I think cricket's essay should be guided by that particular finding of Wim Trindle. And finally, while Tiger might commend my heavy support of freedom of expression, I'd like to say that I think Israel is committing a session of genocide in the Gaza as well, actually.
So, Faisal, I mean, you raised some very interesting questions, and I quite like your nuanced approach. I like nuance, Faisal. I know I don't always sound like it, but I like nuance, and I think you're demonstrating that. And this is a complicated question, and you don't have to give me a straight answer now. You can think about it if you like. But should it only be the Quran that is protected? Could you say other holy works, for example?
All of them, not nothing. There's definitely all the holy scriptures, immaterial and that also will be even scriptures that you might find offensive as well. Actually, we might have a devil worshippers, for example, having their particular scripture being put out there as well, and that also should be protected as well. Not only that, the religious scriptures as well. I think freedom of expression makes us imperative to protect all those particular verses as well. Actually,
Faisal, do you think people are going to ask you some questions after mosque this lunchtime?
No, I'm an atheist.
I see.
So,
okay. I apologize.
No, that's fine. I find it's easy to express myself, out of the religious context.
No. Faisal, thank you. And I was apologizing because I shouldn't sort of make presumptions about people, which is why I was apologizing. Faisal in Westdean, thank you. Nuance, so important. Shera in Durban, pharmacies, hi.
Yes, way back in 1995, the pharmacies made a perfectly good, correct diagnosis about minor illnesses, and would prescribe the medicine and deliver it, and the pharmacy would deliver it to your house. And the doctors complained. They didn't want it because the pharmacists were taking their business away. But it was so good. The pharmacist did an excellent job. You can lie in your bed and you tell a pharmacist what's wrong with you this morning, and they will prescribe the medicine and they deliver it to your door, and just keep the money ready. And it's been stopped.
So it was all over the phone, hey, Shira?
Yeah?
It was all over the phone.
Yeah, over the phone. You did it over the phone. You just from the closest, nearest pharmacist. The doctors stopped it, and then because they reckon, the pharmacies are taking their business away.
I do remember that, actually. I mean, a long time ago, Shira, I sort of had to stir my brain a little bit. But you reckon we should turn the clock back a bit, bring that back?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Durban, it was excellent that it's been stopped.
Yeah.
And the doctors are so expensive for consultation.
No.
You have to have medical aid.
No, of course. All right, Shira in Durban, thank you. Are you with SAFM 10 minutes to 9 the time? Manny on the line from Cape Town back. Manny, I hope that echo's gone. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it. I can hear myself.
Oh, dear. Manny, I don't know what we're going to do to you. Maybe it's going to have to be a different line or something. Let's see if we're able to try and sort that out. You with SAFM, it's 10 minutes to 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yes, very good morning. Roads are looking generally okay around the Gauteng province. The standout really is the N3 North. That stays under pressure from cement factory, moving up through towards the Bedfordview area after an earlier breakdown, which has now been cleared. Also, stationary truck still with us on the N12 at Rondebolt Road, so coming through from Benoni into Boksburg stays really busy. Durban, you're still going to sit in the M13 out of Pinetown for a little bit. That's just as you come up to the N3 at Paradise Valley into the roadworks. N2 South from Gedder Road to Spaghetti Junction is busy, and it looks like some lane closures in between Spaghetti Junction and Pavilion Mall as that section of the N3 upgrade begins. So there is some queuing pressure if you're on your way out of Durban direction Pinetown and Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town this morning, the M1 inbound, a crash before Marine Drive, so coming through from Century City, that remains busy. And the Hout Bay Main Road is being closed this morning, basically between Hout Bay and Diesel River Roads, and that's due to a section of the Hout Bay Main Road collapsing. So there's a lot of pressure on the Hout Bay Main Road and on some local alternatives. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Eintracht Frankfurt plans to have things their way when they clash with the giants of German football Bayern München. They believe a win is more exciting on home ground, while the Bavarians are gunning for strictly 3 points to settle at the top of the table. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the superb contest between Eintracht Frankfurt and Bayern München on Saturday 9 December at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Grootes On Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
8 minutes to 9 the time. Your story of the week and what for you has been the most important thing this week. But let's take one more call on clinics and we'll move on after that. But Ronald, you're in Priska. Hello, Ronald. Welcome back.
I did.
Ronald, unfortunately that line dropped. All right, let's see if we can get you back. Bond on the line from Gqeberha. Bond, it's been a couple of weeks. I'm wondering where you are. You all right?
I'm fine, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's Friday, Bond. It's my last working Friday of the year, let me tell you. So I'm fine, yes.
I shall enjoy and congratulations on the award.
Oh, thank you, Bond. That's very kind.
I just wanted to enunciate the principles of international law on aggression and the exceptions when it may be used. After the two world wars, the United Nations, after it was formed in Chapter 51, authorized the use of force only in two occasions, when it is through the Authority of Security Council in terms of Chapter 7, against a rogue state after peaceful and economic measures have not worked. Then it can authorize the use of force through the United Nations. And the second one and only one is that was recognized by customary international law, self-defense.
Yeah.
If I attack you with a knife, you've got the right to defend yourself. But if I attack with a knife and flee, you have no right to chase me. You must go to the police station and report and medical attention. So a state has got the right to defend itself, but it has no right to take retaliatory action and go to another state. The only exception, and this must be noted, is when it acts in the interest of its nationals. If its nationals are taken hostage by another state, it can violate the territorial sovereignty of that state. That is going only on three conditions. Number one, because its nationals have been taken hostage, it is a victim. Number two, there's imminent danger of harm or injury to those individuals. And thirdly, and most importantly, the country that is hosting the hostages has failed at all to ensure the release of those states. So, whilst on the face of it, countries like Ukraine and Israel have no right to act against other states, Israel has got the limited right of acting as long as its nationals are held elsewhere, because Palestine has not released those hostages. But again, as we always say, this is restricted by proportionality. It must be razor focused on ensuring the release of its hostages in and out. The example of that is in June 1976. Whilst we were engrossed with the June Soweto unrest, there was something unfolding in the world in June. An international flight from Tel Aviv to Paris with some Israelis was hijacked and taken eventually to Uganda.
It's the raid on Entebbe.
Raid on Entebbe. Idi Amin, the host, knew about this even when it began, so it failed to release. Israel, 100 commanders were instructed to go and release the hostages. Most of them were released, only 2 died. Guess who died in that amongst the Israeli military?
Benjamin Netanyahu's elder brother.
It was Jonathan Netanyahu died. You see, and Kenya was assisting Israel in that, as Idi Amin killed some of the Kenyan Ugandans in Uganda. 1,000 Kenyans fled back to Kenya. Don't wonder why Kenya is sending workers to Israel, because of those fraternal relations starting from 1976. At the back of your mind, you can ask, is this not triggering something in Benjamin Netanyahu that my older brother died in a similar situation? You understand? We cannot. The influence is irresistible to say maybe avenging for his brother. In short, if Israel is unhappy about Hamas, it has no right to take the law into its own hand and say it's going to root it out of the face of the earth. It must take its own protective measures so that what happened on the 7th of October doesn't happen again. But the world did not go against Hitler because they disliked him, because Hitler was expanding into Europe.
Sure. But it is also, but proportionality is important here, isn't it? Because, I mean, to kill 15,000 people is,
Yes, but if Hamas would have held the moral ground if it released the hostages and Israel went against it, the whole world would favor of it, because no one is supposed to take the law into their own hands except in self-defense. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Bond and Koberger, thank you. It's a complex issue. Good to hear from you again, Bond. You always enunciate and explain these things so clearly. And I was aware of the raid of Entebbe. I was not aware of that sort of where the relationship between Kenya and Israel started. So it's really interesting. We always learn something when Bond phones from Koberger, I think. KG and Mangaung, hi. The bailout of the post office and the business rescue program and the 6,000 workers who are going to lose their jobs. KG, go for it.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Stephen. I just wanted to say, a few years back when Mark Barnes presented a plan to the government to say...
Mark Barnes, yes.
As the then CEO, their ideologues said no to that plan.
It was all about the Post Bank, I think, was part of the issue,
Yeah, the issue there was Mark Barnes wanted Post Bank to continue to be part of the Post Office. That plan of his. So I just wanted to congratulate these people for managing so successfully to run the Post Office into the ground and to announce this 4.8 billion rand bailout, which continues the looting spree. Maybe money in our country grows on trees, Steven, or what, I don't know. But for me, I don't care what kind of plan Mark Barnes presented. For me, it would have been the only thing that would have mattered to me was if the post office today would have been a self-sustaining institution, keeping those 6,000 people and maybe more in jobs, eating away from the lunch of the likes of PostNet, Korea Guy, and the others. And these people must note that this ideology of theirs, we are not going to eat ideology. ideology is not going to make our economy grow. It's not going to put food on our table. You know? So it's high time. I don't know what must happen.
Yeah.
You know.
No, KG and Mangong, you raise interesting points. And I mean, it's nice to hear sarcasm like that so early in the morning. Reminds me of talking to my children. So, yeah, KG, thanks very much indeed. All right, it's been quite a busy week, actually. I was saying to you earlier, much busier week than we had expected. I don't know if next week will be any quieter or if there are a whole lot of people who are going to try and get everything they need to get done by the end of the year done next week. I think that might actually happen. Let's see. For me, the last full week as well. We will see you on Monday, so look after yourself. Have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend, please. From Mdu, Stanza, Zoma, myself, look after yourself. You're with SAFM leading the conversation. It's Friday morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Top stories this hour. 24th Bakubung platinum miners resurfaced, and more on Russia and Ukraine conflict. Good morning. The National Union of Mine Workers says 24 of the more than 200 mine workers staging a sit-in underground at the Bakubung Platinum Mine in the northwest have resurfaced. The sit-in, which started on Wednesday, is part of the mine workers' protest over issues related to wage increases and the retrenchment of more than 500 workers, including pregnant women. A meeting between the NUM and mine management is expected to be held today to try and resolve the impasse.